Abdul-Jabbar.
We have to do it again for, until the Super Bowl. But the guys did a great job up front. And when we get guys moving people around like that and get a balanced attack, passing the ball well, it allows us to run the ball well.
You need to be able to run the ball pretty successfully against Buffalo in general, so they can't just tee off and rush the passer. So running the ball will be key.
Abdul-Jabbar had a career day last week en route to his second 100-yard game. The Dolphins need another strong performance from Dan Marino, who expects to see more of the 4-3 defense the Bills used 2 weeks ago to beat them.
The problem we had, I think, was the fact that, they have a great pass rush. Bruce Smith, Bryce Pop, those guys inside, they're pretty darn good, and we struggle with that.
So far as me giving away the game plan as to whether we're going to play a 3-4 or a 4-3, we're going to play a combination of both. A 4-3 turnaround backwards is a 3-4. So we'll be playing a combination of both.
The Bills are putting their faith back in Todd Collins, who's thrown 10 interceptions for an offense that scored 10 or fewer points in 4 of the last 5 games.
It's very frustrating for us as an offensive team not to be able to go out there and put points on the board for us, scoring touchdowns. And, to win games, we're going to have to put points on the board. That's just the bottom line.
Marv Levy, a World War II historian, likes to quote Dwight Eisenhower, who said morale is built by victory. But against the likes of Dan Marino, Zach Thomas, and Jason Taylor, even General Eisenhower might be calling for reinforcements. In Miami, I'm Leslie Visser, ESPN.
All right, Leslie, inquiring minds want to know, who was the best NFL team since the merger in 1970? The choices: the undefeated 72 Dolphins, the 85 Bears, who shuffled their way to the Super Bowl, or the 84 49ers. Log on to ESPN Sports Zone and vote. But you have to wait until Prime Monday for the results.
Oh. I had backer for the Miami Dolphins. This is a team known for young stars. Well, right now, Rodgers leads all defenders with 5 sacks this year. He is third on the team in tackles with 68. And tonight, Rodgers comes in having already this year earned honors as the AFC Defensive Player of the Week earlier this season. Derek Rodgers is having one heck of a season, and it's even more amazing when you consider how he became an NFL player. Greg Garber with tonight's cover story.
It has been 8 years since Derek Rodgers played first trumpet at St. Augustine High School in New Orleans. Hardly worth noting on an NFL resume.
I don't know, that there might have been a couple of guys playing the trumpet in the high school, but they wouldn't admit to it.
What was your basic view of trumpet players in high school?
Well, not very tough. Maybe, 5'6", 135 pounds.
Maybe about 5'10", about $150 to be exact, when I actually came out of high school. And no, I don't think you want that guy running around on the football field.
Growing up, asthma attacks left Rodgers in the hospital for days at a time, allowing him only a single year of Pop Warner football. He made it to the football field at St. Augustine's, playing the trumpet in the band.
A lot of times they practice longer than the football team did.
In New Orleans, music takes a totally different route. Music is important, and it's almost important as the athletic.
He was good. He was determined to make it, and at that particular time, you had to be good, to make the section.
Rodgers' musical talent earned him scholarship offers, but instead, he followed his mother into the Air Force.
If you're an officer, you can swear in any enlisted person, and I asked the recruiter, could I swear him in? He told me yes.
And I joined the Air Force. Ended up going to Okinawa, Japan.
I walked in and I saw him. Here's this big, tall, skinny beanpole, basically.
Rick Berg and Mike Davis, now stationed at Luke Air Force Base in Phoenix, Arizona, served with Rodgers in Okinawa with the 313th Medical Group. They lifted weights together and played on the base flag football team.
He went right from tall and skinny to tall and stocky and big,
When you get on the field, you notice there was a sense of intensity, urgency, and just dedication. He was a highly motivated individual.
He was constantly all over the quarterback, inside of his face, and pulling flags and just going crazy, slamming the flag on the ground. It was fun to watch.
We'd sit back in the little lunchroom, and I'd bring up the question, well, what are you guys going to do when you're done?
Derek said he was going to go to school. He also said he was going to play in the NFL.
I told him I was going to go play some football. And they're like, okay.
He said, I'm going to play in the NFL. and he wasn't kidding.
The phone rang at Riverside Community College in California. Football coach Barry Meyer answered.
His first question was, well, what position did you play in high school? And I told him, I said, well, I played, first trumpet.
I didn't discourage him from coming out. I told him he was welcome to come out, but at the same time, I didn't put a lot of stock in him being there very long.
So I came down there and threw my uniform on, thigh pads upside down and whatnot.
Just like any mother, I was thinking, man, he's going to get hurt.
He was relegated to scout team duties, was on the scout team defense, and would work against our starting offense every day in practice. And Derek would just kick our butts every day in practice. We could hardly get things done because Derek was all over the place.
After 2 years as a safety and linebacker at Riverside, his improbable ascent took him to Arizona State, where as a defensive end, he was a finalist for the Bronco Nagurski Award, given annually to college football's best defensive player. After a single season there, the Miami Dolphins drafted him in the 3rd round, with only 3 seasons of legitimate football experience.
Because he just came in at linebacker, he wouldn't know who to cover, and then he'd look and see a guy wide open running the flat, and he's so talented that he would run and catch up and make the play. And that's when I was like, golly, he's going to be great once he gets everything down.
As he goes on, he'll eliminate those mistakes because he is an intelligent player, and he'll be one of the better linebackers in the league.
I never actually, tried to think, how hard is this going to be for me to get to this point? It was just what I was doing.
All right, from marching band to Air Force to defensive force. And his Dolphins tonight can remain tied with the Jets for the leadership in the AFC East. The most important game yet for Derek Rogers, perhaps. Let's check in now with Mike Tirico and his prime Monday mates. Mike?
Well, Bob, it's going to be interesting to watch tonight how much Derek Rogers plays coming off a knee injury. He has seen some time in practice this week with Sterling Sharp and Tom Jackson. Let's look at Rogers in general, the Dolphins' defense, and this game. This is a big one for Miami, isn't it?
It's a big one defensively because of the way they want to play tonight, Mike. They want to come out and pressure Todd Collins in that Buffalo offense. And without him, they have to do some other cute things. And Jimmy Johnson really doesn't like pressure. So if Derek Rogers is on the field, allow them to play a lot of base defense, but bring a lot of heat as well.
Yeah, and then the bigger picture, certainly at this point in the season, if you're a division leader, you want to create some space between you and the guys behind you. And if you're the Buffalo Bills, the way you played the last couple of weeks, you have to either find yourself now or understand that you're probably not going to be there in the playoffs.
There's a lot to talk about this game and a wild day yesterday. We have a lot to cover here in 90 minutes, so join us for Prime Monday in a little bit. Part of our show includes Backstage with Zach Thomas, the small but hard-hitting linebacker of the Dolphins. All on Prime Monday, coming up after SportsCenter wraps up with Bob and Robin after this.
Luxottica Eyewear.
The mission for Marino and Miami, stay atop the AFC East. The challenge for Bruce and the Bills, put the clamps on the Finns again. Trying to put the clamps on the Bills, the Dolphins, Zach Thomas. Ferocious on the field, humble off it.
I still can't believe, when I go into a game, I'm tackling Curtis Martin, Jerome Bettis, guys like that.
We'll listen in on Marv Levy, 72 and still full of enthusiasm.
Busted, Burton. Ryan out. Wow, busted.
We'll go back in Dolphin history. First to the greatest pair of receivers in the 80s, the Marks brothers.
A lot of things that Clayton did on the field that I couldn't do, and a lot of things that I did on the field that he couldn't do.
And back to 72. Nobody has ever done what these Dolphins did. Is the perfect team the best ever? You decide. And we'll have the aftermath of Sunday's great finish. Leslie Visser is there. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Mike. It's a beautiful night here, and there's the added excitement. They're going to honor the undefeated 1972 Dolphin team. Well, for the Bills, this is a game to get, as you mentioned, back in that wild card chase. For the Dolphins, it's a chance to see if they can handle Buffalo's 4-3 and Bruce Smith. A little while ago, I spoke to Jimmy Johnson about it.
I think our guys are prepared for the 4-3. It gave some problems there early in the game last time, and so I think they'll be fine there. As far as handling Bruce Smith, now Richmond's done a decent job with him over the years, but there's going to be times we're going to have to double him. We're going to have to slide our protection to him and do some things to keep him from going free in the backfield.
I'm sure you're aware there was an article in the Miami Herald that indicated that you and Dan Marino have a strained relationship and that next year he will have one of two choices, either adjust to a new offense or leave.
Well, of course, that was extremely irritating that somebody's going to fabricate some things and put them in the papers. Dan and I are fine, and, it seems like, some of the media people, they like controversy, so they continually want to stir something up and try to, put a wedge in between Dan and myself. Dan's playing fine, and so I don't see any reason reason in the world why he can't be a quarterback for a long time for us.
Well, for the Bills, in this Todd Collins' biggest game, Marv Levy told me he needs for Collins to show renewed confidence, and because his arm is stronger than Van Pelt's, he wants him to work on that Dolphins secondary. Well, for the Dolphins, there are quite a few changes. Linebacker Derek Rogers is out. Anthony Harris will move to weak side linebacker. Hollier will move to the strong side. On offense, John Bach will start at right guard, and newly acquired and activated Roosevelt Potts is going to play. He says he's ready to be a battering ram. One more note, Brett Perriman, who had his best game last week, he will start ahead of Lamar Thomas. Mike?
Well, Leslie, a healthy Perriman, he's been coming on for Miami, and maybe that can improve the passing game. More weapons for Marino. Leslie will be back with us throughout the show. Well, here we are, guys, week 12. We're usually talking playoffs, Bills, Dolphins, but Tommy, here, we're kind of talking about the unknown for both teams.
Well, it's very unusual, Mike, at this point of the season with two teams in this position to talk about teams trying to find their identity. You look at the Buffalo Bills at the quarterback position, Alex Van Pelt and Todd Collins. They're trying to find some consistency. They only had a third of a season left to do that. And then the Miami Dolphins, the greatest passer of all time in Dan Marino, and yet we all know Jimmy Johnson won the Super Bowls by running the football, and therein lies your problem.
Well, I think you look at this is the time of the year where go-to guys start to step up to the front. But like you just said, when these two teams, you talk about these two teams, who's going to be their go-to guy, especially in the passing game? Quinn Early and Andre Reed in Buffalo, who's it going to be out of that tandem? Or you got a newly acquired Brett Perriman who's playing very well, and you got O.J. McDuffie. The one thing that happens now is you got to go to your go-to guys. And Mort, when your go-to guys don't show up, coaches need to sit down and talk to players about making plays.
Well, Sterling, I assure you, Jimmy Johnson has talked to those players, not necessarily sitting down, but standing up. Before and after the Jets game last week, Jimmy Johnson has torn into a selected number of veteran players on this team, whether it was Keith Sims for making excuses against the Jets for an elbow, or Troy Drayton whining about not getting enough catches, or George Teague saying the defense isn't attacking much. Jimmy Johnson has told those vets he is tired of hearing it, and it's a part of this game. And I don't think Jimmy's been as miserable in coaching since they were 1-15 in Dallas. I think he's at a crossroads. Remember, he said this is a 3-year plan for him. After this second year, I think you're going to see some veteran players out of there. And let me tell you, it will be his way or the highway. And if for some reason he didn't think it was going to be his way, I think he would take the highway out of town. Mike?
Well, Morty had reason to light up that defense. They allowed 179 rushing yards in Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. Just show them the film. That should inspire them, or send them to the highway. Dolphins, the 84 49ers, who went 18-1, their only loss to Mark Malone and the Steelers, by the way, and the one-loss Super Bowl shuffle Bears of 85. Who's the best? Log on your computer, the ESPN Sports Zone at ESPN.com. We'll have the final totals for you at the end of Prime Monday. In addition to that, Chris Berman, Lynn Swan, and Leslie Visser backstage with the ringleader of the Young Finns defense, Zach Thomas, who invites us into his home, which still looks like a college dorm.
Come on in. This is my home.
Where's the food?
Right here. Frozen pizzas. Right here. Frozen pizzas. Those work every time.
Once a Red Raider, always a Red Raider. Also, the playbook will share why Bruce Smith, age 34, still giving the Dolphins.
Pretty good for a guy who got run over by a truck when he was 2 years old. He is the pride of Pampa, Texas, a small windswept town in the Panhandle where Zach says you get dirt in your teeth when you smile.
Come on in. This is my home.
When we talked about getting together, I said, let me guess what your apartment looks like.
Hey, that looks terrible right there.
I bet it's a big leather couch, a giant TV screen, and a bunch of beer bottles.
And you're exactly right.
Where's the food?
Right here. Frozen pizzas. You see my curtains in here? See my curtains? You love this place, don't you?
How long has this been around?
I don't know if you want to open it. You know, that's all we need.
He's having a great life.
Didn't you, as a kid, did I hear you had Lawrence Taylor, a poster of LT?
Oh, yeah, and I met him, and I was like, that's the guy I had on my wall. But I'm just a big fan, and I'm, you know, kind of caught in the awe of things, even with all the running backs. I still can't believe, you know, when I go into a game, I'm tackling Curtis Martin, Jerome Bettis, guys like that, Emmitt Smith. It just really motivates me. That's the way I'm always going to be. I'm always, like, you know, humble like that. I don't ever see myself as an NFL player.
When you see Chris Spielman, isn't that someone that maybe most reminds you of you?
Exactly. I mean, when I went down there to play, they said that he's probably even a harder worker than me. He'll come back on a plane trip, 1, 2 in the morning, he'll go watch film.
Do you think to be a linebacker you have to be kind of reckless?
Oh yeah, you gotta go in there and give it all you got. Give up your body every play. That's something, you can't have any fear. I've always lived life on the edge, doing things. I mean, my brother would always dare me to do things. And
like what?
Like jumping off cliffs. I jumped off a 90-foot cliff. It's Lake McKenzie back home.
How does your mother survive this?
She's always been the type that's worried for us.
You said that you've used clippings and press releases to motivate you. Didn't you for a while save some of the negative commentary?
Oh, that was my mom. My mom, she's the best. Even coming into in the NFL, she searched for so many different articles that would say that I'm undersized, I can't get off blocks, and she would send them to me. And I'm like, Mom, what are you doing, trying to break my confidence? And she knows what she's doing. She was motivating me the whole time.
Didn't your mom make you a cassette that she wanted you to listen to when you drove to Florida?
Yeah, it was a Mike Singletary cassette.
His greatest hits?
No, it was just a tape that he was preaching, and he was talking about, you know, how he made it and things he's done wrong and the temptations in the NFL and things like that, and it really helped me.
What happened with the truck and your head?
Well, when I was 2 years old, I was playing on the back of a tire with some toys, and my dad was working with some guy out at the farm, and he went and got in the truck, and he just backed up, and he backed up over me, and then he felt the bump after it came over me, and he punched it by panicking and ran me over twice.
And a truck runs over your head?
It went right over the center of it. My dad told me later on, he's like, you know, we knew you could take a hit when you got ran over by that truck, and we knew you were going to be a football player.
What do you think it is that distinguishes you?
I think my biggest thing is my first reaction, watching a lot of film, and I think that's what gets me there. I can be a half step ahead of another player before they even recognize the play.
What was Jimmy like after that loss to Chicago? Is it better to die a small boy than...
Oh, it wasn't good. He didn't, you know it's not good when he doesn't say anything.
Oh, that's the worst?
Yeah, oh, that's the worst. Even though he's not a big guy, he's the most intimidating guy I know. And he can give you that look that would just break you down.
Is to play for him something special? Keyshawn Johnson told me, he said, I know I will go to a Super Bowl with Bill Parcells.
I know with Coach Johnson, we will go to a Super Bowl.
1, 2, 3, go!
He will make sure we go to a Super Bowl. Even if it has to, he'll cut the whole team. He will make sure. He will.
Well, Jimmy's not likely to cut him. After breaking his leg on August 4th, Zach is back at full force. He had a great game last week. Jimmy expects the same from him tonight. Now, what Zach Thomas told me is frustrating, though, about playing the Buffalo Bills is that they bring the tackles down to tie him up. He said hopefully that's a chance for the defensive linemen to get upfield. Mike?
Let's see if those offensive linemen can get going. I mean, if the guy doesn't get stopped by a truck running over his head, man, that story is really interesting. Anyway, Thomas and the Dolphin defense. Tonight they take on the Bills, and we mentioned the quarterback change.
That is incredible. Emmitt Smith. Oh, no finish!
This is ABC Sports. It's prime time in Miami, and the city is ready for Monday Night Football. The Miami Dolphins' Dan Marino was a 23-year-old quarterback prodigy when he took the field for the Super Bowl back in 1985.
Marino. Johnson. Touchdown, Miami.
But it was a game the Dolphins would not win, and Marino hasn't played in the Super Bowl since. It has been an incredible career nonetheless. Through his 15 years in the league, Marino has built a staggering resume. In an era of great quarterbacks, Dan Marino has been the most productive of all, for he has set league records in the game's most significant categories. To those teammates who have played with him, Marino is a regal figure, as he is to the men who have coached him. Marino is a true sporting legend who is passionate about his work.
Winning and losing, I guess, now for me is much more emotional than ever has been because I've played for so long. And earlier in your career, if you win or lose, you know, you're going to have other years. I mean, you never know now when it's going to be your last game. So you take it with a lot more passion.
Dan Marino is a man headed to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And tonight, the Buffalo Bills face the Miami Dolphins on ABC's Monday Night Football.
Play the fish! Play the fish! Those poor Dolphins! How about them Dolphins, baby? We got the noise! Bring on the game! Like a freight train moving at the speed of light. Like
play. The Bills try to serve up Dolphin Philly. You gotta be hungry for this primetime feast. It's a blue plate special from the AFC East. Hit it! Come on and hit it! Come on and get ready! Are you ready for some football? A Monday night party! We got Frank and Al and Dan. They're gonna get it started. Chris and Lynn are all set. The crowd is psyched. All my rowdy friends are here on Monday night. Bring on the game. Let's do this. Now.
A 70-degree evening here in South Florida, the familiar skyline of Miami Pro Players Stadium. It's sold out. The Buffalo Bills are in town to play the Miami Dolphins. Hello again, everyone. Frank Everett, Al Michaels, and Dan Deerdorf. Key matchup for you tonight from the AFC East. The Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins have had an up-and-down season, but they come in tonight 6-4. They've been struggling, but they know if they can win tonight, they'll move into a first-place tie with the surprising Jets, and they have beaten the Jets twice already this season. For Buffalo, it's a different story. They come in at 5-5. This is desperation time for Buffalo, Al, and they know if they lose this one, they can just start thinking about tomorrow. But they also know, like Miami, they win this one, they're only one game out of the division race.
Right back in the thick of things. It's a vital game. Even their coach, though, Marv Levy, is astonished that this team has a record of 5-5 because they have put up some unbelievably ugly numbers. For example, they have turned the ball over 29 times in 10 games, almost 3 times per game, and their third down conversion rate is 24%, by far the lowest in the league. They should be 1-9 or even 0-10 with figures like that. But a lot of teams expect their defense to keep them in games. The Buffalo Bills expect their defense to win games, and that's what's happened. These two teams' last victories have been by scores of 9-6 against Indianapolis and against the Miami Dolphins. Offensively tonight, they go back to Todd Collins at quarterback after 2 games of sitting on the bench and watching Alex Van Pelt lead a very futile offensive attack. If they can get something going offensively tonight and play their basic defense and win the game, they're back in the race. A loss, and they're virtually out of playoff contention. Two teams that are very familiar with each other, Dan, because the two teams met at Orchard Park just 15 days ago.
And as you mentioned, Buffalo won without scoring a touchdown. That meant the Miami didn't score a touchdown either, Al. And the reason they weren't was because they were pretty much manhandled by Buffalo's defensive line up front. And Jimmy Johnson has issued a challenge to his offensive line tonight. We can't win the game unless you guys drastically improve your play. They ran the ball 23 times 2 weeks ago against Buffalo for only 54 yards. Bruce Smith hits Dan Marino and knocks him out of the football game. His ankle is still sore. If it is not a great deal improvement tonight on the offensive line for the Miami Dolphins, it just isn't going to happen for them. Derek Rogers, their best defensive player, is going to miss this game. He leads them with 5 sacks. The offense is going to have to get it done for the Miami Dolphins tonight. It's a festive evening in South Florida. Don Shula got his Hall of Fame ring a couple of minutes ago. It's the 25th anniversary of their undefeated 72 team. And oh, by the way, Monday Night Football.
In the upper 60s, cool by Southern Florida standards, by the warm night. Welcome for the Buffalo Bills. I'm Lynn Swan. Welcome to the sideline. Jimmy Johnson, head coach, Miami. 2 weeks ago, you played the Buffalo Bills. How much could have possibly changed, and what do you plan on doing differently to come out on the upper end of the score?
Well, Lynn, one thing, this weather's a little nicer than what we had in Buffalo, so that's going to help the scoring with both teams. And the thing about us, we've got to be persistent about running the football. If we're persistent running the football, we'll protect the passer, because we got to slow down that pass rush.
Coach, thank you very much, and good luck tonight.
All right, Lynn.
Al?
All right, thank you, Len. And that has been Jimmy Johnson's mantra, run the football. And that's what they did last week with great success against the New York Jets. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar over 100 yards. Steve Christie to kick off. And Miami receiving a yard into the end zone. This is Irving Spikes up past the 20. And Spikes runs it back to the 25-yard line. And that's where the Dolphins and Dan Marino, part of the great class of 1983, and a man who in his illustrious career has thrown 378 touchdown passes, most ever. They have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the backfield. Bernie Parmalee is the fullback. Perriman and McDuffie are the wideouts. O.J. is their leading receiver. Drayton the tight end. Webb, Bucky, Ruddy, Bach, and Brown in a revamped offensive line up front. Keith Sims on the bench.
First down from the 25-yard line, and Abdul-Jabbar, who ran for 103 against the Jets, picks up 2 here to the 27. Now, Buffalo has gone to a 4-3 defense. For years, they played a 3-4. Hansen, Moran is the extra guy, Washington and Smith. With 2 of their starters, Covington and Spielman, gone for the year, 3 linebackers, Pop, Holisek, and Rogers. And the secondary, Burris and Smith at the corners, Jones and Schulz at the safeties. And through the years, Marino has gone Burris's way very often. He'll get a lot of action tonight. Second down and 8 from the 27-yard line. Abdul-Jabbar for a gain of 1. Last week against the Jets, they started the game with 6 straight running plays to Jabbar.
You know, I think it was interesting when Jimmy Johnson was talking to Lynn Swann. He said we have to be persistent in running the football. He didn't say we had to be successful. He knows he's got to run the football to make sure they don't turn loose that pass rush of the Buffalo Bills that have 35 sacks.
Well, he also, because he knows, Frank, that if it involves Dan Marino dropping back 30 or 35 times tonight, he probably won't see the end of the ball game.
This will be the first drop back on 3rd and 6 out of the shotgun. Marino's first pass of the night. Good protection. Guns it. Finds the open man, and then it's fumbled by Charles Jordan, who gets it back at the Buffalo 46-yard line. The Buffalo Bills, believe it or not, this season have recovered 1 fumble all year. And on that play, they fumbled the ball right back to the opposition. It's been that story all year long for Marv Levy's Bills.
And for Charles Jordan, when he fumbles his football, his first thought probably was Jimmy Johnson. He has been known just to get rid of football players that fumble the football. And he made a great effort to come up with it just over midfield.
1st and 10 at the 46. So Miami with a 3rd down conversion and the game's first down. The fake to Abdul-Jabbar, and then Marino under pressure because breaking through was Ted Washington, something he does with great frequency.
Ted Washington just dominates the middle of that line. He is so effective against the rush, and he was the man that really made it possible for them to play the 3-4. Now that they've gone to a 4-3, they are much more intimidating, I think, against the run than they were.
And that 325 is probably closer to 340, but that time that's just a mistake up front by the Dolphins. You've got to put a body on Washington. Maybe they're paying too much attention to Bruce Smith. A great individual matchup, Pro Bowler on Pro Bowler, Smith and Richmond Webb.
2nd and 10 from the 46-yard line. A little swing pass to Abdul-Jabbar for a first down. And inside the 30, out of bounds at the 25. Forced out by Sam Rogers.
Good call. Get rid of the ball quickly. 1, 2, 3, bang. Jabbar open in the flat. Give it to him and let him run with the football. Good thinking. Marino with plenty of time. He takes the 1, 2, 3. Bruce Smith wasn't even blocked and still couldn't get to Marino before he released the ball.
Well, that's been the story of Marino's career. He's the least sacked quarterback of his era, and it's because of his great pocket savvy and his quick decision-making process and then delivery of the ball.
The last play good for a gain of 21. Back to the ground they go. Abdul-Jabbar swings to the outside, then loses his footing and picks up 1, tackled by Kurt Schulz. Wade Phillips is the defensive coordinator, the former head coach of the Denver Broncos, and his unit has been masterful. They are the sole reason this team is even close to being a 500 football team right now.
Oh, he's a terrific defensive coordinator, head coach for a while at Denver. Watch the turf as Jabbar tries to bring it back to the inside. That's going to be a factor here tonight. We'll be watching that. But Wade Phillips knows he has got to put the brakes on the Dolphins here.
McDuffie in motion on 2nd and 9. The play fake, and then the pass to Drayton, the tight end, and Jones makes the tackle about 3 yards short of the first down. It'll be 3rd and 3 at the 18.
An interesting call now. This will come in, of course, from Gary Stevens, the offensive coordinator, and the man that will bring it in, Irving Spikes, I guess. But will they run the football? They're within 3 yards, 2.5 yards. Quick replay as you see Troy Dayton coming up short. But they want to run the football, but let's see what they do now. They pass the ball much better.
Well, they got Ed Perry in the backfield, their backup tight end, and he's a very good lead blocker.
Third down, long 2. That's Perry in motion, and they give the ball to Irving Spikes. So they have Spikes come into the game, a guy who's averaging just 2.8 yards per carry. He loses 1, stopped by Bryce Pop at the 19, and that'll set up about a 37-yard field goal attempt.
This is interesting. Jimmy Johnson wants to run the football. You know that Dan Marino wanted to change that play at the line of scrimmage to a pass. Dan Marino believes he can throw the football better than this team can run the football. He's probably right. Jimmy Johnson wants to change it, and this conflict that's been going on down here is going to continue.
Olindo Mare, first-year kicker, and a guy whose longest field goal this year is 35 yards. This from 38.
That's away.
And Mare's kick is good. So his longest field goal of the season culminates Miami's first drive. 10:09 left in the first. Dolphins 3, Bills nothing. Dan Marino is 3 of 4 on that first drive for 53 of those 56 yards. Olindo Mare, a career long, it's a short career thus far, his first year with the Dolphins, but a career long, officially listed as a 37-yard field goal, and it's 3-0. And back deep, Derek Holmes, left of the screen, Eric Moulds, number 80, and Mare to put the ball in the air. Good deep kickoff. Drives Holmes into the end zone.
Mare really put a foot to that one.
Now the Buffalo Bills, they started the season with Jim Kelly retired. Todd Collins got the job, and then they brought Alex Van Pelt in the middle of the Denver game a couple of weeks ago. He made 2 starts, and now it's Collins again out of the University of Michigan in his 3rd year, 2nd-round draft pick. They have Thurman Thomas as the sole setback. Early and Reed, the wideouts. Klein and Johnson in the double tight end set. Fina, Brown went to the Pro Bowl last year. Ziegler, Lucina, and Ostrowski, the offensive line. And they begin with an end around to Andre Reed. And Reed up to the 30-yard line and close to a first down. Tackled by Sean Wooden, a little short. It'll be 2nd and inches. 4-3 for Miami. Armstrong, Bowens, and Gardner tough in the middle, and Burton. The linebackers, Hollier. Zach Thomas was their MVP as a rookie last year, and Harris. Buckley and Jackson are the corners. Wooden and Teague are the safeties.
There's Derek Rogers, who leads the team with 5 sacks. He's out with a knee injury, and they've been forced to switch everybody around. Harris goes to the weak side. Dwight Hollier comes into the strong side. It'll be some adjustment for them this evening.
Now Thurman Thomas on 2nd and inches for a 10-yard gain. The venerable one out to the 39-yard line with his 8th straight 1,000-yard seasons. But that mark in jeopardy this year because they use a lot of Antoine Smith.
Bills running the ball well this season, averaging 4.5 yards per carry. And Antoine Smith we'll see a lot of tonight. If you haven't seen the Bills this far this year, he is a burgeoning future superstar. He is extraordinary back. He's really pressing Thurman Thomas for playing time. There he is, big, 6'2", about 225 pounds, and a lot of speed.
First down, Buffalo from the 39. Miami with a 3-0 lead early. Thomas swings to the outside, turns it back upfield, and crosses the 40 for a minimal gain. Tackled by Zach Thomas, the middle linebacker.
Zach Thomas broke his leg in a preseason game that we were doing back in August in Mexico City, and he missed the beginning of the season. Then it took him several weeks to get back into the flow of things, but I think everybody remembers the exciting rookie year that he had last year. Fred Flintstone, and what an exciting middle linebacker this guy has become, and he's back to full speed for the Miami Dolphins just in time for their stretch run.
2nd down and 8 minutes to go in the quarter. Collins, a short drop, slings it to the outside, caught by Andre Reed, who's tackled by a trio of Dolphins led by Terrell Buckley. Andre Reed from Kutztown. He's been in the league since 1985. That's the 813th reception of his illustrious career.
And one of the best runners in the league, Al, after the catch. And this is superb by Buckley. Right there, it looked like he was going to lose him and miss the tackle. He stayed with him and hung on until his friends got there. That's an excellent play by Terrell Buckley on a very dangerous open field runner.
3rd down and 1, and Antoine Smith is in the game. He is their short yardage back.
And Collins gives him the ball, looking for that yard. He gets it, and considerably more as he takes it across the 50-yard line to the 43. Tackled by Anthony Harris. Dan Henning, who was formerly the coach at San Diego and Atlanta, is the offensive coordinator, and happy about that.
Antoine Smith, we were talking about him a moment ago. He really runs the daylight well. This one designed to come off tackle. He sees it to the outside. Finds a little gap. First, he knows he's got to get the first down. Look at him cover up the football. This is a #1 draft pick out of Houston. He's going to be around big time.
From the Miami 43. Collins play fake, buys good protection, but the pass is a bad one intended for Quinn Early.
Oh, you've got to hit that one. Quinn Early put a good move on, got open, and Collins wasn't even close.
Oh, you know that's frustrating because that unfolded just the way they probably worked on it half a dozen times on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. That's you have to understand that teams go over this. It just worked out exactly the way they wanted. They got the coverage they're looking at, and look how open Quinn Early is.
It beats George Teague. Anytime you can lock George Teague up man for man downfield, you're going to have a good high percentage of completion. You just have to have the man throw the football.
You just don't get that many chances at a guy wide open, and now Todd Collins is forced to take a timeout.
2nd and 10 when we come back. 6:35 left in the quarter. 3-0 Miami. Joe Germain leading Ohio State against Michigan. Huge game Saturday, noon Eastern time.
Why is there no Michigan guy
well,
up there?
Wolverines, they'll be there later. Wolverines trying to get to the Rose Bowl. That's what you'll see regionally, second half of the doubleheader. And we go to Denver next Monday night. The Raiders off their resounding win yesterday against San Diego, against the Broncos next Monday night. On 2nd and 10, Thurman Thomas exploits the hole, taken down at the 36-yard line after a gain of 7 by Sean Wooden and Sam Madison.
Thurman gave Sam Madison a little shove. Thurman not ready to give up this job quite so quickly, but he's been a big help working with Antoine Smith. Thurman now in his 10th year, and running backs, well, 10 years of running back is tough to do in the National Football League, particularly when you carry the ball nearly 1,000 times at Oklahoma State before you got here.
And a look at Jim Kelly, the retired Jim Kelly, looking on tonight, watching his ex-mates try to execute on a 3rd down and 3. And Collins going for it all, and it's incomplete. Andre Reed, the intended receiver, and Buckley with him step for step.
Buckley has done a good job over the years with Andre Reed, and that time Terrell Buckley was right there. It had to be an absolutely dead perfect throw by Todd Collins, and it was pretty close to that, but Buckley with good position, fighting and scratching,
and gets that right arm of his in there just in time. Maybe a quarter of a beat early, but
well, that happens
too hard to tell.
Happens at full speed, Dan. No one's going to see that.
Absolutely. That's pretty well done by Buckley.
They're going to at least line up to go for it on 4th and 3. Otherwise, you're looking at a 54-yard field goal attempt. And on 4th down and 3, it is deflected and incomplete. And Miami takes over on downs. Deflected, I believe, by Jason Taylor, the rookie from Akron. Dolphins have the ball and a 3-0 lead. Jason Taylor, good-looking rookie. Missed about 3 weeks with a broken arm. Has it wrapped up, knocked down that Todd Collins pass. And thus Miami has the ball with 5:43 left in the period from the 36-yard line. Roosevelt Potts is in the backfield at fullback. And Marino throws over the middle, and it is dropped. Incomplete. Abdul-Jabbar. Lucky he didn't have possession, otherwise it would have been a fumble. 2nd down. They've signed Roosevelt Potts. Roosevelt Potts has a lot of talent, but he's a guy who's had trouble with drugs and was suspended for the entire 1996 season. Finally let go by Indianapolis, and Jimmy Johnson picked him up in his rotating fullback situation.
Well, his normal starting fullback Stanley Pritchett is out. He hopefully will start practicing next week, but he's forced to play Bernie Parmalee at fullback, and he is just not a good lead blocker by NFL standards.
2nd and 10, a little swing pass to Abdul-Jabbar, and it gets taken down in the open field by Bryce Pop. And that's a loss of 1, setting up a 3rd down and 11.
Potts was out of all of '96 with Indianapolis on the substance abuse policy. Came back and was active this year, only in on 9 plays for Indianapolis, but had a terrific rookie season 4 years ago when he came up as a second-round draft pick for Indianapolis, and he's looked very well for the Dolphins here in the few days that he's been able to work.
Jimmy likes his attitude. Roosevelt told him, you want me to splatter some linebackers? I'll splatter some linebackers for you.
Third down and 11. Marino under pressure and gets sacked by Bruce Smith. Pop comes in to clean up, but Bruce Smith, second all-time only to Reggie White in career sacks, gets another.
Well, it's the old tackle end game. That's where the tackle drives to the outside. The end loops around back to the inside. You hope to confuse the offensive lineman. Watch Bruce Smith take a step upfield, loop back to the inside. Jeff Bucky at left guard, a little slow to react back, gets a little push on Bruce, but with that athleticism of his, he's able to get back in on Marino. That's just an extraordinary play by an extraordinary player.
Career sack number 152. John Kidd's punt is a beauty. It backs Jeff Burris all the way back to the 16-yard line, and then Burris is able to bring it back to the 32 after a 57-yard punt. O.J. Brigance makes the tackle. 4:14 left in the quarter. 3-0 Dolphins. Debut on September 3rd, 1978. He was the coach then of the Kansas City Chiefs. 4 other men made their head coaching debuts that day. There they are: Neil Armstrong, Sam Rutigliano, Bud Wilkinson with the Cardinals, Pete McCulley with the 49ers. Marv, the only one of the 5 ever to win a postseason game, and he's won several.
Is Neil Armstrong being sued by the astronaut?
He might be. That's right. As Antoine Smith swings to the outside and turns it back up to the 40-yard line. Gain of 8. Monday Night Football being brought to you by the complete line of 1998 Lincoln automobiles. Lincoln, what a luxury car should be. Micron Electronics, now you know all your computing needs are just a phone call away. Visa, the official card of the NFL. It's everywhere you want to be. And Circuit City, answers in every department, low prices all over the store. Beautiful shot of Miami. Dan referring to the suit that the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the basketball player, has against Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the football player, over use of the name. Second down and 2 from the 40-yard line. And Zach Thomas is right there to take care of Antoine Smith for a loss of a couple.
All right, we just showed Jim Kelly, the Buffalo quarterback. I think he's being sued by the ESPN announcer.
Very possibly.
And Todd Collins, the quarterback here tonight, I believe he's being sued by Todd Collins, the linebacker for the Patriots.
Frank is being sued by Gifford Nielsen.
And you're being sued by anybody named Mike.
Right.
Great play by
Zach
Thomas.
Zach Thomas is right.
Talked about him earlier. He is back to 100%, and it took a while to get there from that broken fibula in the summer.
Third down and 5. Collins throws, caught by Thomas, and Thurman a first down up to the 46-yard line, and they convert here. And as we mentioned at the top, Buffalo converting just 24% on third down. If they finished at that figure, it would be the worst in the league for any team in 27 years.
Well, and it just goes to show how they're laboring the transition from Jim Kelly. As I mentioned at the top, tonight they're celebrating the 25th anniversary of the only undefeated team in pro football history, the 1972 Dolphins. Every member of the team except for Larry Zonka and I believe Jake Scott are the only 2 living members that aren't here tonight. They're all here.
Here's Thurman Thomas picking up a couple to the 48-yard line, and Bob Greasy, the quarterback of the undefeated Dolphins, and his son.
Al, that's not what he's known for.
Well, he's the father of
the Michigan
Brian
quarterback,
Greasy.
Brian
Greasy.
It's fun meeting all of them down in the field, meeting them. We've known them over the years. Garo Yepremian is here, Howard Twilley, Nick Bonacani. A lot of them have gone on to be very successful in a lot of things in life.
Bills have not scored a first-quarter touchdown in their last 14 games going back to last season. And this quarter close to expiring with 1:43. And on second down, short underneath, caught by Moles, but next to no gain, a yard or so, tackled by Thomas and setting up a 3rd and long.
And you saw Zach give him the no, don't come across the middle and expect to find yourself open, not if I'm in the ball game.
He's not all that big, and he's not very tall. They list him as 5'11". He looks like about 5'9", though, but he plays football like about 6'2".
Well, he plays football the way that I know Nick Bonacani, who's sitting up in the press box tonight, watches him play. That's his old spot. Nick has to be thrilled with the way he's playing it. A lot of similarities.
3rd down and 7 with a minute to go in the period, and Collins has to burn another timeout. To the chagrin and frustration of Marv Levy, timeout Buffalo. Only 1 remaining in the half. 3-0 Dolphins.
Sit on the bench and don't even know what down it is. Look at Bruce Smith come over to Todd Collins when he was forced to take that timeout. You think he's not into the football game and a little frustrated?
He quieted down, though. He might have been told Todd Collins did not get the call in time to get it off in time, and maybe it wasn't Todd Collins' fault.
Oh, it may not have been Todd Collins' fault. That doesn't negate the fact that Bruce is upset.
He looked like he's going to spike him.
Yes, he did.
And Buffalo's had to use 2 timeouts in the first 14 minutes of the game. 3rd down and 7 from their own 49. They pick up the blitz, and the pass is short and incomplete. Intended for Eric Moulds, covered by Sam Madison, and they're forced to punt.
Bad choice by Collins there. Sam Madison had great position on Moulds. No chance for the completion. He threw it right down at the knees. Not a good series by Todd Collins. Watch this. Good 29, Sam Madison. He is right there. Great position. Todd Collins had to throw it low. Bad choice.
And Buffalo's first quarter woes continue. The Bills this season have scored a total of 12 points in the first quarter. 4 field goals. Chris Moore's punt is fair caught at the 10-yard line by Charles Jordan. That's where Miami will begin its next drive.
Well, they've only scored 17 touchdowns on the entire season, and this is, of course, post Jim Kelly, who had meant so much to the Bills over the years. They've had all the indecision you talked about earlier at quarterback. He changed in the Denver game to Alex Van Pelt. And last week, Van Pelt threw 3 interceptions in the first half, and they had to go back to Todd Collins, so it's not a happy situation.
Well, it's not an easy transition in any city, and they're going to find out here someday in Miami when they attempt to replace Dan Marino, whenever that happens. Although some of the writers here in Miami think it's going to happen relatively soon.
According to yesterday's paper, from the 10-yard line, this is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar squirting through a hole, getting 9 to the 19, tackled by Kurt Scholes.
What it might boil down to, Dan, now maybe there are about 22 quarterbacks around for 30 teams.
Well, playing quarterback in the National Football League has never been tougher. And I don't believe there has ever been a time where fewer guys really know how to do it and do it with any sense of proficiency. It has become a very complex position.
2nd and 1, and the quarter will end on that run by Abdul-Jabbar for a first down up to the 21-yard line. So we've played 1 in Miami. After 1, it's Miami 3, Buffalo nothing, and Monday Night Football returns after this message. And a word for EB is a lens and a half.
Craig Janoff, our director, gives us a magnificent look at the moon over Miami. Look at that.
Don't do it, Al.
Very nice.
We don't want a course.
No warbling yet.
Of course, we don't have any of our crew here in the stadium. They're all right there. That's right. Enjoying Miami's nightlife. As usual, Kenny Wolf at the controls.
And we start the second quarter with Marino on first down from the 21-yard line, hitting the tight end, Drayton, who does a full stiff arm into the face of Henry Jones and picks up the first down up to the 35-yard line. Miami leading at the end of 1-3-0 as we check out the numbers through the first 15 minutes of this fray. With a full 21-gun salute.
And if you'll notice, the time of possession, total yards, just about the same. Buffalo running the ball much better than Miami, but that was a fine piece of work by Troy Drayton.
Now this is Abdul-Jabbar cutting it back and tackled at the line of scrimmage, stopped there by Henry Jones.
Henry Jones.
Hey, I can tackle.
Hey, Henry, I don't believe the short-term memory down here is quite that bad. Henry gets up and wants an ovation.
Troy
after
Drayton
being manhandled by Drayton.
Drayton goes about 265, and Jones was trying to arm tackle him. It's never going to happen. It might be wise, though, if you want to live to tackle another day, and he did.
I guarantee you next time, Frank, his tackle attempt on Drayton will be somewhere below the waist.
2nd and 11 from the 35-yard line.
Take that center.
36-year-old Marino guns it complete into Buffalo territory, caught by Lamar Thomas. First down at the Bills' 41-yard line.
Great read by Marino, and what a beautiful pass he throws. I've said it before, I just marvel when he has the time to throw the football. It is the most catchable thing as a former receiver that I've ever seen. Floats it in there just in perfect position.
His line gave him a great look that time, and again, a Miami receiver makes something happen after they catch the ball. Drayton did it 2 plays ago. This time Thomas does. Rather than take the easy way out, spins back to the inside and picks up another 5.
From the 40-yard line back to the ground, Abdul-Jabbar picks up 4. Kareem to the 36-yard line. 2nd down and 6.
And Jimmy Johnson is right. You can slow that pass rush down so measurably if you can run the ball just a little bit, and not maybe successfully, but at least persistently. And that's what he said at the top of the show, and that's what they're doing. They come right back to it. He does not want Marino out there throwing 6, 7, 8 times in a row.
Dan playing on a still pretty gimpy ankle, forced out of the Buffalo game a couple of weeks ago. Abdul-Jabbar swings to the outside. Flag is down. Bernie Kukar, the referee, and we'll hear from him for the first time tonight. Abdul-Jabbar tackled at the 35. We had a penalty-free first quarter, but this one is holding against Miami.
Holding, number 89 on the offense. A 10-yard penalty, still 2nd down.
Ed Perry out in front of it, and I'll tell you, Jimmy Johnson, next to, well, I guess next to fumbling, he hates these kinds of penalties.
That's Keith Sims right there standing on the Dolphins sideline, a multiple Pro Bowl player that is now barely hanging on this Dolphins roster. He's got a bad elbow, but went into the game last week against the Jets, got 3 holding penalties in a span of 10 snaps. That will get you in Jimmy Johnson's doghouse faster than anything you could imagine. You see where he's watching this game from, the Miami sideline.
On 2nd down and 15, it is caught by Irving Spikes, and he takes it to the 36-yard line. It'll be 3rd down and 6 upcoming.
Another example of how receiver-friendly the passing of Dan Marino is.
Thanksgiving weekend, the 29th and 30th, the Skins game. An annual feature here on ABC. Tiger Woods, Tom Lehman, Mark O'Meara, and the defending champ, Fred Couples. Thanksgiving weekend, the Skins game right here on ABC.
Get your back well, we'll get you in there.
Yes.
Well, in a competition that favors being aggressive, Tiger would really have to have an advantage in the Skins.
He's got to love this.
3rd down and 6. Marino out of the gun. Dan down the sideline, and it is caught by Lamar Thomas. First down at the 12-yard line. Great play.
Get the highlight reel ready. Get it ready for Lamar Thomas.
What a collision.
How about him going up and over to snare that ball with nothing but his hands? He's working against Jeff Burris, the corner. Look at that concentration.
There's Manny Martin with the helmet right in the face, and he still holds on.
Oh, that is spectacular.
Thomas losing his starting job to Brett Perryman this week. Clearly wants it back. From the 12, Abdul-Jabbar takes it to the 6-yard line. 2nd down and 4. Washington makes the tackle.
Let's go back again. This is as good a catch as we have seen all year. Look how he elevates, gets up over the top of Burris, takes the big shot. The ball comes loose after he lands out of bounds. Boy, that is just a thing of beauty by Lamar Thomas.
I think you're right, Al, to it. There's a new incentive for Lamar Thomas with Brett Perriman named as the starter this week.
Last time we saw a catch like that, I think a guy who wore 88 made it. Lynn Swann.
You might be right. That's very reminiscent of Swanning.
2nd down and 4. Abdul-Jabbar takes it to the 3-yard line. Smith losing his helmet on the play.
That's right. You're right. That was Swann-esque.
Floating. Buffalo defensively in the red zone, as you can see. They've allowed just 11 touchdowns on 31 possessions, and that's the best rate, lowest equaling best in this situation in the NFL, and they're forced into that situation right here.
This will be interesting whether they run the football or throw the football. About 1.5 yards, maybe even 2 yards. What will they do?
That's the only way you can be competitive when you're minus 18 in the turnover department. You got to play defense like that.
Split back set. Marino to throw. Marino swings it out to Perry, and Bryce Pop can't knock him out of bounds before he crosses the goal line. Touchdown.
Well, Frank, you talked about the matchup
matchup when Buffalo is able to lock up George Teague. This is a matchup that Miami wants anytime they can force Bryce Kopp, who's a tremendous pass rusher, when they can force him into pass coverage. That is not what Bryce does well.
Exactly. And for Jimmy Johnson, I know he wanted to run that football. He knew that, but he's here to win a football game. It's a terrific call. Just what Dan said. Bryce Kopp got caught in the coverage. He's not used to that. That's not his game. He loses.
And Perry's primarily a lead blocker, only his 6th reception of the year. So that really fooled Buffalo with Perry being the receiver.
Mate for the extra point. That's Perry's first touchdown reception of the year. Dan Marino this season has thrown 10 touchdown passes to 10 different receivers. That's unbelievable. 10-0.
We may get one before the night's over.
With touchdown pass number 379. Miami leads 10-0 as Mate puts it in the air. And well into the end zone. Down there by Eric Mold.
Second touchback for Mari. And they don't let him kick from over 40.
And now the Bills sputtering on offense. Find themselves trailing tonight. Next Monday night will be in Denver as the Broncos, off their loss yesterday to Kansas City, take on the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Now from the 20-yard line, Thurman Thomas picks up 3, tackled by Mike Cholensky. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Katera, the caddy that zigs. Miller Lite, now the official beer sponsor of the NFL. And Mortal Kombat Annihilation. The battle continues. Oh.
Come on, Frank, that's a softball.
Carnival Cruise. Second down and 8. Thurman Thomas tackled behind the line of scrimmage by Sean Wooden. To the delight of the crowd here, a lot of these folks, of course, here during the summer as well. Pro Player Stadium, the home of the baseball world champion and soon to be dismantled Florida Marlins.
Now the process is already underway, is it not?
It is. Team is being sold by Wayne Heisinger, who also owns this team. There is Wayne, who owns this team. For the moment, the Marlins and the hockey team, the Panthers as well. 3rd down and 9 from the 21, and Collins has that one picked off by George Teague. He brings it back to the 29. Heisinger very happy. Thomas makes the tackle. Jason Taylor put the pressure on, and Buffalo in a lot of trouble.
Timely corner blitz got Taylor on the inside, and Jason Taylor is playing with several screws on a metal plate in an arm that was damaged October the 17th. But he made 2 big plays here tonight. This ball, I think, the contact was made, and it forced the ball into an errant throw, and that was because that's what caused the pickoff. But Jason Taylor again.
A big play last week in their win over the Jets, and Jason Taylor, every time he is on a football field, contributes some type of a big play to the Miami Dolphins defense. A 3rd-round draft choice who's going to be a consistent Pro Bowl football player.
Now Miami from the 30. Abdul-Jabbar behind Perry, the blocking back, and knocked down as he reaches the 29-yard line. On the left, George Hill, the defensive coordinator of the Miami Dolphins, and we zoom into Gary Stevens calling the plays.
I'm not going to say anything about him being sued by the jockey number.
Right. Or George Hill being sued by our statistician.
There you go.
And if it's not an obvious situation, most of the plays we're going to see called in will be running plays.
Well, unfortunately,
Dan Marino does have the option, however, to change it at the line of scrimmage.
Unfortunately for Buffalo, an undue amount of pressure already put on their defensive unit.
2nd down and 8, and Marino going for the kill, hits Drayton, and Drayton has a 1st down. He's tackled from behind by John Holosick, the middle linebacker.
Former St. Louis Ram, who came here last year in a very good trade for the Dolphins. He 95 with the Rams. He had 47 receptions, and this is a big man. He can block, but he carries about 260 pounds on 6'3". And watch this. Turns it upfield.
In one of the worst trades the Rams have made in quite some time, they get Billy Milner, a former #1 draft choice of the Dolphins, an offensive tackle that's now out of the game of football. So they, in essence, give up Troy Drayton for absolutely nothing.
Now Abdul-Jabbar To the 12-yard line, gain of 5 off an Ed Perry block. Perry doing a real nice job. He's a tight end. He's an H-back. He's a fullback. Rookie from James Madison.
Well, Dan touched on it earlier. Bernie Parmalee back there. They really don't have a fullback that can get into a linebacker and make the block they need. They hopefully are going to get Stanley Pritchett back in a few weeks. He can do it all back there. Good receiver, and he can also block. And of course, Roosevelt Potts may work out.
There's Frank Wainwright, who's their snapper. He's another guy hurt tonight. I hope to have him back shortly. Second down 4 from the 12. Abdul-Jabbar tackled at the 10-yard line. Jeff Burris makes the stop. And this is one of these early game fairly critical plays for the Buffalo Bills. If they let Miami go in all the way here, I think it's over. Or as close to being over as it can be in the first half. They can hold to a field goal. At least they're within sight.
Well, you're making that assumption, Alan, the way the Buffalo offense has been playing, and who can blame you?
3rd and 3.
And Al mentioned that touchdown catch by Ed Perry was the 10th to a 10th different receiver. First time it's ever happened.
4 rides for Miami.
3rd down 3 from the gun. A little shovel pass. Phil Hansen read it beautifully. Jarvis McPhail took the shovel, and Hansen is right there to force them into a field goal attempt.
Boy, he read it. It was with no tight ends in there, Dan. I mean, he was tight. He was so in tight on it. When both defensive ends were in so close to him, he just ran into it.
All right, and Dan Marino immediately went up to the offensive line, unhappy with the way they blocked it. He barely got that in there, and you can see on his way to the sidelines, he's going, that is certainly not the way we practiced.
He's got a point. This line is makeshift, and that's a pretty sophisticated piece of blocking you have for that play.
Now Mate with a 31-yard attempt. John Kidd to hold it.
It's away.
And the kick is good. So Mate is 2 for 2.
Give Kidd an assist.
It sure was a nice handle of not the best snap.
No. Bucky snap. Kidd did a nice job here, and Miami extends its lead to 13-0. School setting in Miami, home of the well, they hope first place Dolphins. Yeah, that's right. The Dolphins to kick off. Mate has put 2 into the end zone. This one is taken by Derek Holmes at the 2-yard line, up past the 20, the 30, and out of bounds near the 39-yard line. So the Dolphins with a big lead as they try to go 7-4, and as you mentioned at the top, Frank, with 2 wins over the New York Jets, they'd be in first place in their division.
Kind of important right now that Buffalo does something, I think, Al. I mean, if they lose this one tonight, they're in deep trouble. They need something right here. Miami has to be happy with what they're doing. Good mix, pass and run, what Jimmy Johnson wanted to do.
And what Buffalo has to do is somehow muster some consistency offensively, and they haven't shown that yet this season. It has been a herky-jerky, look good sometimes, make a big mistake. It has not been there offensively at all for Buffalo this year, and this is the time of year when you just have to have it. Their defense has played so well, but yet it's not enough, I don't think, to carry this team into the playoffs unless the offense gets better in a hurry.
Get a phone call to Jim Kelly wouldn't hurt either.
Well,
he's here. Really struggling at the quarterback position.
Yeah, at least it would be a local call.
Yes. 305 area code.
Washington pressed that 12.
Antoine Smith gained 1, second down and 9 from the 39. 3:50 to go in the first half. Collins chased by Taylor and throws, and it is caught as one official checks with the other, and the back judge says yes, inbounds. Andre Reed tackled by Calvin Jackson, first down.
Well, if you want to play, though, you go to this guy. We talked about his running ability after he catches the football. He can do it all. Remarkable career, up close to 800 receptions and growing each year. Look at this. Very conscious of where his feet are, focused on the ball. Beautiful.
That is nice, isn't it?
Now from the Miami 48-yard line, Collins going deep into double coverage, and again it's Andre Reed, the intended receiver, but covered well. Sean Wooden and Terrell Buckley, and Reed will draw a lot of double coverage.
Well, you got to assume that Collins was just throwing that away, because that was double coverage that he had to read all the way.
Well, you've got 2 receivers that are only running 5-yard patterns. Andre Reed all alone downfield. And with only 1 deep safety, he's got nowhere else to go than to help out the corner that has the coverage on Reed. So pretty simple coverage for Miami. Buckley had help all the way.
Now on 2nd down and 10. Collins stepping out, looking for somebody, and throws underneath to Quinn Early. And Early is just a little short of the first down as he gets it to the 39-yard line, hit by Baron Tanner.
Good read by Collins. Flushed out of the pocket. Early kept it alive. He moved out to the sidelines, worked his way back in, and gave Collins an easy throw. And I think they're going to think it's close enough for the measurement. But look at Early. Moves back to the inside, moves away from Buckley, comes very close to the first down. The old veteran with so many great years in New Orleans. Arrived here last year and has been a real good possession receiver for Buffalo.
On this drive, give Collins some credit. He has put the ball where he has had to put it. You see about 6 inches short of the first down, but the good sideline throw, but after scrambling out of the pocket to Andre Reed, that time again on the move, delivering it to Quinn Early. So Todd Collins, at least on this drive, a little sharper than we've seen him yet.
3rd and inches now from the 38-yard line. 13-0 Miami. 2:45 left in the opening half. Smith and Holmes in the backfield. Antoine is the tailback. They have Derek Holmes, 44, as the blocking back. Holmes lays down the block. They get the first down and a lot more. And Smith is run out of bounds at the 28-yard line.
Antoine Smith again with a good read. Saw it. Everything was open on the outside. Put on a burst of speed, and he's got one as big as he is. Fine looking running back.
Well, the key blocks at the point of attack by Jay Remersma, who's on the move. Buckley was really about 5 yards off the line of scrimmage, didn't have contain on the play. He does what he has to do and saves the big play. But that was well blocked by Buffalo at the point of attack.
Smith, their #1 draft choice, 25 years old. And Collins hits Smith, who comes back to take the pass, and he's been better served to drop it. And in fact, it is ruled incomplete. Dwight Hollier covering on the play.
Well, Al and Dan, he wanted Collins wanted Andre Reed again, and once again Reed was in double coverage. Collins looked at him, and didn't come off him quickly enough. Should have read the double coverage immediately.
Break for Buffalo, because that would have been about a 7-yard loss. Instead, it's 2nd down and 10 from the 27. Thurman Thomas back in the game. Fake to Thomas, end around, and Moles doesn't fool anybody. Shane Burton breaks the play up along with Dwight Hollier. George Hill, the defensive coordinator, happy with that effort. We reached the 2-minute warning officially at 1:57. 13-0 Dolphins. Monday Night Football live on the web. You can play the Monday Night Office Pool, win tickets to a 1998 Monday Night game, all at abcmnf.com. After the 2-minute warning on 3rd down and 16, Collins gets sacked back at the 42. So here are the Bills on a critical drive, taking themselves out of field goal range, and Jerry Wilson makes the tackle.
5 receivers in that pattern, and you've got to have somebody break it off somewhere for him to go. He had no chance.
Well, you've got Jerry Wilson, a cornerback, who walks right up on the line of scrimmage. There he is on the near side. You've got to see him right there. Completely unprepared. The Buffalo offense takes another sack.
Timeout Miami. Back in Miami, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf, and Lynn Swan. Monday Night Football with Miami on top 13-0. And the Dolphins, to conserve the clock, just called a timeout because they're going to get the ball back after Jerry Wilson's first career sack. Now Chris Moore to punt, floats one, and a fair catch is signaled for and made at the 14-yard line by Charles Jordan. And now Dan Marino, the master of the 2-minute offense, will go to work. Miami has been the most efficient team in the league in 2-minute offense this season, as Dan has directed them to 6 touchdowns in their 20 possessions, and that 30% rate is the highest in the league.
And one of the reasons they're so successful, guys, is the way they practice it. Jimmy Johnson has them practice it during the week live. You can't tackle the quarterback, but everything else is live except tackling the ball carrier, the quarterback, full speed on the lines. It makes them work at an up-tempo.
They give it to Irving Spikes, and on a running play, he picks up 14. Kurt Schultz makes the tackle, so Jimmy Johnson saying you have to be persistent with the running game, and even with a buck and a half to go in the half, he is right now.
I'm going to run this no matter where I am and what time's on that clock.
From the 27-yard line, now out of the shotgun. Marino throws. That's caught by McDuffie. And they try to keep him inbounds, and they do. Marlon Kerner tackles him inbounds. The Dolphins have 2 timeouts remaining.
O.J. should have worked a little harder on getting out. McDuffie, he's really the go-to man for Dan Marino. Has been much of the season. We haven't seen much of him tonight, but we could on this drive.
That was his first catch of the night. Now an inside handoff as they give the ball to Jarris McPhail. And he is a little short of the first down, and Miami has to take a timeout, their second, with 48 ticks left. And a 3rd down and 1 coming up. O.J. McDuffie, their leading receiver, with 52 catches. They've been having a problem finding another guy to go with him. They earlier this year had Fred Barnett, who'd come back from serious knee surgery, but finally had to release him. And then Lamar Thomas was the starter for a while, and Perriman came in from Kansas City, and they started Brett tonight.
Brett could be that other man they need. They just need to work him into the offense. They've only had him a couple of weeks, and he needs to really learn the breakoffs with the blitz with Marino, and that's what he's kind of been short on. But he's picking it up, and we could see him on this drive. There he is.
Marino is 11 of 13, and he's completed 8 in a row. And on 3rd and 1, he can't make it 9. They look for a flag, and there is no yellow on the field. Jeff Burris with the coverage on Lamar Thomas, and it's 4th down.
Well, Burris was all over Thomas, but then again, he knew the pattern. He was all over the curl. Let's take a look at it and see if he got there early. Ooh, it looked like he came over his back, didn't it? Looked like Burris made contact. Looked like Lamar Thomas had a legitimate beef.
Now John Kidd to kick. And Burris is back to receive it. And it's a very short, wobbly kick that is out of bounds near midfield. So a big break for Buffalo as they attempt to exploit this, but only 36 ticks left on the clock.
Plenty of time if they can get something to happen.
One of the better punters in the game is John Kidd, but that not one of his better punts, and Mike Westhoff not pleased.
That kick out of bounds at about the 44-yard line. That's a 20-yard kick.
That'll damage the old average, won't it?
Yes.
It would give Buffalo a tremendous lift if they could go in at halftime with some points on the board with only 36 seconds. They've got to move the ball about 56 yards.
Early split left, and Reed sent wide right from the 44. Bills have 1 timeout remaining. Collins throws, and it's caught underneath, and that's Lonnie Johnson. And Johnson is tackled inbounds at the 49-yard line. And Marv Levy says, I've got to use that last timeout. So Collins was forced to take those 2 timeouts in the first quarter, and it comes back to Burnham right now. So 21 seconds left. Marv Levy, 72 years old.
Now, the one thing that Buffalo does have going for them is the leg of Steve Christie. He's already had a 55-yard field goal this year, so if you can get him anywhere close, and if you're anywhere close to a television on Saturday, you must watch this game. For the Big Ten Championship and a trip to the Rose Bowl for the Wolverines in Ann Arbor, 12 o'clock Eastern.
And then after that, regional action, and then we go to Denver next Monday night, where the temperature could be... It could be 4 or it could be 64.
And you must watch that game to see how we dress.
Right. The Raiders against the Broncos. The Raiders with the suddenly rediscovered Harvey Williams scoring 4 touchdowns last night, and they went against San Diego. And Denver all of a sudden now in a race again in the West after Kansas City's victory over the Broncos yesterday. First down from the 48-yard line. Collins going deep, and Quinn Early is the intended receiver, but he's covered by Buckley. Buckley covers the sign.
Covered or smothered by Buckley.
Quinn Early does not, he never did have big speed, and he slowed down over the years in his 10th season. And Terrell Buckley is quietly having a terrific year. He's very aggressive. He's been involved in better play and stopping the run, but this is perfect position. Early had no chance to get to that ball.
They could have thrown that pass 30 times and never completed it with that coverage by Terrell Buckley.
3rd down and 5. No timeouts left for Buffalo. 15 ticks remaining. They have to complete it and then get out of bounds and get in field goal range, and they don't do any of the above. 4th down. So it's 4th down and 5 with 8 seconds remaining.
Really not the most imaginative play calling in the entire first half on the part of Buffalo.
Well, George Hill has to go in with his defensive unit of the Dolphins and tell them, don't change a thing, guys. You got them off balance. You're hitting them hard. You're rushing the passer. You're just strangling the Buffalo offense.
And the offense of Miami playing very well against a very tough Buffalo defense.
And the half will end on that Chris Moore punt. The Dolphins pitching a shutout through 30 minutes. At the end of the first half at Pro Player Stadium, the Miami Dolphins 13, the Buffalo Bills nothing. We head to New York and Chris Berman. Chris, in Miami, where the Dolphins are on top by a score of 13-0, and the Buffalo Bills will get the football as we begin the 3rd quarter.
Big weekend for the NFL this year. Had 13 sellouts out of 15 games yesterday, over 1 million fans. Game is very well. Another one here tonight.
The game is fine. The question is, are the Buffalo Bills? A pretty anemic first half for them offensively, not able to finish. Moved the ball in the middle of the field, but then sputtered.
Mate's kick is a bouncing ball that is taken by one of the up men and returned to the 32 by Marcellus Wiley, and there is a very late flag. Bernie Kukar, and this crew has not had much action tonight. Very few flags tonight. Mike Westhoff is the special teams coach. He's curious. Personal foul against the Dolphins. Bernie, a referee since '91 and a postseason assignment on merit every year since '92.
Personal foul, number 25 on the kicking team. Low block. It's a 15-yard penalty from the end of the run. First down.
And I'm sure Jimmy Johnson is going, how can he be blocking? We're the coverage team.
Good question.
We're not the receiving team that's trying to block people. Corey Harris involved on the coverage unit for the Miami Dolphins.
First down now for the Buffalo Bills with good field position from the 48-yard line to begin this drive. And it is caught by Andre Reed. And Reed is forced out of bounds at the 41. 11-yard gain and a first down at the halftime numbers. Differences in the passing yardage area for the Dolphins over or close to 100 yards more than the Buffalo Bills.
Well, less than 100 yards total offense for Buffalo and less than 40 yards in the passing game. Both of those substandard by wide margin.
From the 41, here's Thurman Thomas. Nothing doing to the right. Cuts back. Tackled to the line of scrimmage by Hollier and Burton.
Hollier filling in at the strong side where Anthony Harris has moved over to take Derek Rogers' position. Dan touched on it earlier. Complete revamping of the linebackers for the Dolphins, and with the loss of Derek Rogers.
Yeah, because in reality, Frank, you end up, even though you're missing one guy, two new people are basically playing because Harris is playing out of position.
2nd and 10, good blitz pickup, and then Collins sees everybody covered in the secondary and has to throw it away. And let's get a word from Lynn Swan. Lynn.
Al, in the Buffalo locker room, Marv Levy was very upset, and it showed when he came out. He was upset with his defense because on the perimeter, he said they're making too many mistakes. He had 3 mistakes that allowed the Dolphins to score. He said offensively, they're not making anything happening. His offense is not playing with any confidence, and until they play with confidence, he doesn't have confidence in what they're going to do on the field. That came straight from Marv Levy. Al?
Not a good combination. Upset with the offense, upset with the defense. All that's left are special teams.
And it appears that Bruce Smith and some of the defensive guys are upset with the offense.
3rd down and 10 from the 41. Collins throws, and it's caught by Quinn Early. Big play on a 3rd and long. Takes it to the 20 and a 1st down. Sean Wooden knocks him out of bounds.
Now that actually was a good throw by Todd Collins, throwing it over the top of the underneath coverage and down in front of the long coverage. That was a nicely timed and a nice touch on this throw to Early.
Good break to the inside. Buckley underneath. Sean Wooden, the deep man. Well thrown ball. That one had touch.
Yep, it really did. And Buckley just lost track of it enough to not to be able to react back to it.
Antoine Smith in it running back. He gets the football and nowhere to roam. Tackled by Shane Burton. 2nd and 10.
Good game for Burton so far. He was very active in the first half, in on some plays. Was a little shaken up towards the end of the first half, but he's back in there again. Only his 2nd year in the NFL. As with all of Jimmy Johnson's rebuilding projects, the kids get the first shot to prove themselves. Burton is one of the kids that has.
And
Speed, youth. He doesn't care about the size.
Jimmy's already recast the team in his image. Only 16 players remain from Don Shula's last game. And this is caught at the 17-yard line by Quinn Early.
And another play by a kid, Anthony Harris, another one of those 2nd-year players. They are all over this Dolphins defensive team.
Remember the early days in Dallas when Jimmy Johnson started to rebuild that team. He did it with nothing but speed. He didn't care about size. He just wanted quickness. He wanted youth so he could work during the week. He wanted people that would be willing to hit during the week. That's how he's rebuilding the Dolphins.
Well, Gardner is a 2nd-year player. Wooden a 2nd-year player. Thomas a 2nd-year player. Harris. They're all over this roster.
Blitz on 3rd and 7, and they try to trick him on the ground, and they get away with it. Thurman Thomas inside the 5 to the 2. Thomas looked like he'd be stopped for no gain. Broke a tackle. Stopped by Wooden. 1st and goal, Buffalo.
Great old pro. Thurman Thomas. They needed a play. He gives them a play. He was trapped behind the line of scrimmage. Kept his feet moving. Always had those quick feet till he found a little bit of an opening, put on a burst, and he still got a burst.
And
watch him right here. He stopped right here. And he breaks it loose.
Key block by John Fina. Reuben Brown on the left side of the line. They held their blocks long enough. The key play of the game to this point in time for Buffalo.
Smith, the tailback, out of the eye on 1st and goal. He has scored 5 rushing touchdowns this season. Takes it to the 1. Stopped by Trace Armstrong. 2nd and goal.
Didn't look like he got that handoff cleanly, did it? Looked like he was struggling to maintain control. That'll distract the running back enough to really make it hard to do any serious damage running the ball.
This drive began at the Buffalo 48. 2nd down. Goal from the 1. The up back this time. Derek Holmes in for the touchdown.
Well, that's the old wham block. You put the tight end in motion. That time it was Robert Coons, number 87, the tight end. He puts the wham block down on a defensive tackle right off his rear end. Goes Holmes for the touchdown.
All of that set up by the special teams and that good return of the kickoff.
Good return. Well, the kickoff and then the penalty that was assessed on the Dolphins, and they only had to go 52 yards as Steve Christie comes in for the extra point.
And the big run by Thurman Thomas.
On 3rd down and 7. And the Buffalo Bills climb back into the game. 10:45 left in the 3rd. 13-7 Dolphins. And tonight's aerial shots are being provided by the Bud 1 airship hovering high above the stadium formerly known as Joe Robbie Stadium in Miami. Kickoff is taken at the 7-yard line by Irving Spikes. And a good run back out past the
40-yard line to set Miami up in good shape for their first offensive possession. Well, at halftime, the undefeated team of 1972 celebrating its 25th anniversary. Don Shula
wearing his old hair there.
Going 17-0, and 25 years later, the boys are back.
Little lip to hitch and get along. A lot of lipping out there. Come on, the 72 team.
There's a lot of lipping up here, too.
First down from the 41-yard line. Marino under pressure throws underneath, and it is caught for a minimal gain by Ed Perry. Second down. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Chrysler, engineered to be great cars. The Home Depot, America's home improvement coach. And Budweiser, since 1876, the classic American lager.
Another ceremony that took place prior to kickoff was administered by Pete Elliott and John Banker to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. They were here to present Don Shula with his Hall of Fame ring, which, of course, this is pretty much of a perfect night for the people here in attendance. Shula gets his ring. The 72 team honored, and their Dolphins are up 13-7.
And now faced with the third down as you look at Nick Bonaconti. That pass intended for O.J. McDuffie.
So many great players. Ralph Wilson Jr., the owner of the Buffalo Bills, he is in the preliminary running for Hall of Fame nomination. Of course, that balloting will take place later in the year. But he is here, and he's been getting out for one of the first times. He had back surgery. There's one of the original owners of the old American Football Conference, and one of the great ones, too. He's been worked so quietly behind the scenes in so many issues for the National Football League.
With his daughter, Linda, as Marino throws, and it's incomplete, right over the top of Perriman's head. Didn't know which way to turn, and it's fourth down.
I think Dan's wondering, what did I do? Really, Perriman's running directly away from him, and he didn't quite know where to put it.
Well, Dan looks like he expected Perriman right there to work back to the middle of the field. Perriman keeps working towards the sidelines.
Remember, he talked earlier about his reading with Dan. He hasn't really got the blitz breaks off where they in sync with Dan Marino. That's one of the problems they've had working him into the lineup.
Remember, he just signed on the 8th of October.
It's gone.
John Kidd. His punt fielded by Burris at the 14. Back to the 50. 1-yard return. 9:33 remaining in the third quarter, with Miami leading by 6. And Bruce Smith in a little bit of agony. So that beautiful shot of Miami, it's ironic as you look at Bruce Smith being worked on and the Buffalo offense out on the field. Ralph Wilson, the owner of the Bills, almost owned the Miami franchise as this drive starts from the 16, and Antoine Smith picks up 9, and the ball is loose. And Bernie Kukar stopping the clock as they check out.
This ball's in play. This ball's in play right now.
No signal yet except from the Dolphins, and now it's official. So Smith with a nice gain, 8 yards, and as Thurman Thomas looks on, he watches his understudy cough it up, and Buffalo's second turnover tonight, to the frustration of the owner. Darrell Gardner came up with the football.
And Bruce Smith is coming back out onto the field. It looked like he was in some type of pain on the Buffalo sideline. The ball comes out really early. Antoine Smith loses that ball on the initial contact. Gardner comes up with it. And now, once again, the Bills defense put in an awkward position.
From the 24-yard line on first down, Abdul-Jabbar picks up 3 to the 21-yard line. Second down and 7, and Smith slow in getting up.
They were trying to stretch out what appeared to be a hamstring a few moments ago, and Smith was almost caught when he had to come back out onto the field with the fumble. But he looks to be okay. He's been taking a lot of time off during practice during the week. He only works 3 days a week, that because of sore knees. You wouldn't know it, the kind of year he's having. They were working on him just a short while ago, and I'd have to speculate that they're working on a hamstring.
2nd down and 7 now from the 21-yard line. Marino hits McDuffie, and he gets tackled a little short of the first down, about 2 yards shy. O.J. taken down at the 16-yard line by Holisek.
What a good passing scheme, though. You watch the Miami Dolphins scheme and then compare it to the Buffalo scheme. Marino always has somewhere to go, and there is a sequence to it. He takes a 1, 2, 3. He takes a look. If that receiver isn't there, he's got another one. Here's McDuffie on a little move to the inside. Look at the 3 receivers. Marino could read any one of the 3.
And this is where Jimmy Johnson, preaching the running game from the first day of minicamp, hopes it pays off.
3rd and 2, and it doesn't pay off here.
No,
Bruce Smith rising to the occasion at the most opportune time.
We talk so much about Bruce being so tough against the pass. Great pass rusher, and that he is with 152 sacks. His 152nd coming tonight, but he is tough against the run.
Well, we always talk about receivers separating themselves from a corner. Look how Bruce Smith separates himself from a blocker. That time, Pro Bowler Richmond Webb not able to sustain his block on Bruce Smith for more than a second or two, and he comes in and forces a field goal attempt.
And keeps his team in the game.
35-yard attempt for Olindo Mate. And he hits the upright, and then it bangs through. The hat trick for Olindo with an assist. So the turnover cost the Bills 3. And with 7:19 left in the 3rd, Miami is up by 9. Taking a big play, and Miami had to settle for a field goal. Thus the lead is 16-7. Thurman Thomas pacing the sideline. He watched his understudy Antoine Smith fumble, and it cost Buffalo 3. Now Mate's kick into the end zone again, doing a good job tonight. Eric Moles is going to come out with it. Crosses the 20, taken down at the 24-yard line. These two teams go all the way back. First meeting in 1966, and tonight's Monday Night Football Fact brought to you by Prudential. The Dolphins beat the Bills 20 consecutive times in regular season games during the entire decade of the 70s. It's the longest winning streak for one team against another in the history of the NFL. Miami 20-0 during that decade as Antoine Smith is in it running back. From the 24, he gets the ball. We mentioned that Ralph Wilson, before starting to tell the story, Wilson actually read in the paper in 1960 that this guy in Texas, Lamar Hunt, was starting something called the American Football League, and he was granted the original Miami franchise. But the city didn't warm to it. He couldn't make a deal with the Orange Bowl. He said to Hunt, I can't make a go of it. Lamar called him back about 4 days later, and he said, we need you for the 8th franchise. Pick a city. And he looked at Cincinnati, Louisville, St. Louis, Buffalo, and he says he couldn't remember the other one, and that's how we wound up with the Buffalo Bills.
And he's done a wonderful job up there, the stadium, with the game itself.
2nd and 9, and that's caught by Reed, who moves to the 30, and then Miami winds up getting an AFL expansion franchise in 1966.
And as it turns out, not really that bad of an investment either. I'm sure Ralph has pulled $1 or $2 out of the franchise since then. I believe his original investment was $100,000 for an AFL franchise.
Actually, the original $25,000 to get in the pot to begin with, which is about what Dan Marino would make in 5 minutes.
Right, and they had to come up with another $75,000 in operating capital. And this franchise today worth well over $100 million, probably closer to 150.
3rd down and 4, and it's caught by Early. There's a flag down.
The flag coming in very late, and in the secondary.
And it's against the Dolphins.
Holding number 23 on the defense. The penalty is declined. The play is a first down.
George Teague saying, no, I wasn't holding. I just warded him off.
I was just, he kept trying to hit me, and I kept trying to push him away.
George Teague, of course, Dallas Cowboy a year ago, and before that a starter for 3 years with the Green Bay Packers. Not one of your big crushing hitters, but you can use him in coverage better than most safeties.
Well, what a great career he had at Alabama.
First down from the 36-yard line. Antoine Smith swinging to the outside, and the 25-year-old rookie puts his shoulder down and is banged out of bounds up near the 44 by Zach Thomas and Sean Wooden.
After that fumble, Antoine Smith was looking for somebody to hurt, and Andre Reed now is being stretched on the sidelines. That was quite a collision between Antoine Smith and Zach Thomas.
Andre, that last catch was his 50th of the season, and now 11 years in a row he's up and over the 50 mark. Second and 2. Thomas now, and Thurman up to the 46 and appears to be just a little short of the first down.
Looks about, 2/3 of a yard left to convert this and keep this drive alive. And right now Buffalo is in a position where they just can't afford many misfires. They just can't make many more mistakes and expect to remain in this football game. They could just put together a mistake-free conclusion to this drive. Finish. All of a sudden they're behind by
Give it to Smith, and Smith is able to pick up the first down, and a flag comes in at the end.
And Corbin Lucina giving it the "I didn't do it" look.
He did it.
You should never give it the "I didn't do it" look until they throw the flag.
Holding number 68 on the offense. The 10-yard penalty. Still third down.
First penalty against the Bills in the game.
And it hurts.
Lucina pulls from his right guard position. There he is on the left side of the screen. Oh, yeah, he just wraps up Hollier.
I didn't do it. I didn't knew he was going to get that flag.
Little too late there. He grabbed Hollier and spun him all the way around.
So a first down becomes a third down and 11. Reed is back in. Thomas is in the backfield. Collins throws over the middle, and it is incomplete at the 50-yard line. And Andre does get the flag.
Came in late. He was tackled.
George Teague, who was flagged before, is going to probably get this one as well.
Pass interference. Number 23 on the defense. That's the first down.
Everybody has a right to go for the football, but that right to go for the football does not allow you to cut off a receiver in his attempt to get to the football.
Certainly ward him off with an arm.
Interference all the way on Teague.
What's the draw?
From the Miami 49-yard line. Collins with great protection down the left sideline. Thurman Thomas makes the catch. A fabulous catch.
Veteran still has it. That's why they like him in there when they want to throw the football. Antoine Smith is a good running youngster, but I mean, this man can work well out of the backfield.
Frank Harris did everything right in his coverage on Thurman Thomas, except he didn't know where the football was. He never turns around to play the football. He didn't realize it was there until too late. Everything was right up to the end.
Well, had a hand in there, but you put a linebacker on Thurman Thomas, you're going to be in trouble.
And now, from the 19-yard line, Tim Bowlen takes things into his own hands and throws Antoine Smith for a loss of 5.
Well, it'd be nice if you blocked him.
Not even touched.
I don't know how long they worked on that, but somebody wasn't paying attention.
Well, Lucina pulled, you would think it would be the center Ziegler that have to cut him off, wouldn't you?
Well, if you're asking the center to come all the way across and keep him from getting upfield, you're asking the impossible.
Second and 15 from the 24.
throws, and it is caught by Early at the 19-yard line. Some 10 yards shy of the
He
first.
looked like his leg was out of bounds, like his foot was out of bounds when he called that.
And that's what Buckley is arguing.
Boy, Jimmy Johnson up there quickly, too. Or maybe it was an optical illusion, but it looked like he was out of bounds when he caught it.
He comes back to make the play. Good coverage by Buckley. He caught the ball, and then the foot went out of bounds.
Yep. Oh, he's in all the way.
Oh, yeah, no
there
question.
it is. Good work by the official.
Correct call. It's third down now and 8 from the 18-yard line. Blitz. Collins gets it away in a hurry for Reed, and it's broken up at the last instant by the rookie Sam Madison.
Terrific play by Madison. Reading the receiver to know where the ball is.
Well, the ball kind of floated, and Reed had to slow down and wait for it. That ball could have been another 2 yards downfield or so.
Reed smiling, saying he could have had 6.
Yep.
But a good play by Sam Madison, the rookie out of Louisville.
If the ball's a little more downfield, Andre Reed gets a chance to accelerate to try to make the catch instead of having to slow down.
36-yard field goal by Steve Christie is just good, just inside the right upright. And with 1:58 left in the third in Miami, it's the Dolphins 16 and the Bills 10. And we're back in Miami. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorff, and Lynn Swan. Miami leading by 6 as Steve Christie kicks off to the Dolphins, and it's hauled in at the 7-yard line by Irving Spikes. And Irving loses the football at the 24-yard line, and the Buffalo Bills have come up with it.
What did Jimmy Johnson say last night? If we're going to win this football game, we can't turn it over.
And Steve Tasker is the guy who recovers it. And it's only as Bruce DeHaven exults along the sideline, the special teams coach, it's only the second fumble recovery all season for the Buffalo Bills.
And a very timely one it was.
Raymond Jackson, I believe, number 31, is the Buffalo player that flies through the air and just gets a hand on the football and pulls it loose. Right there. Excellent hustle play by Raymond Jackson.
From the 16-yard line. First down, Buffalo. Collins, look out from behind, throws it away. He was being chased down by Trace Armstrong. 2nd and 10.
What's up, Rosa?
Oh, good coverage. Again, I believe by Madison. And they were trying to get 6 quickly, and Madison, who has done a good job in the coverage. Let's take a look at it once again. Top of your screen. There it is, a little stop and go. Madison right with it. And Collins has to throw it away. The rookie from Louisville with another fine play. 2nd-round draft pick.
Madison covered early like he told him what the pattern was before he ran it.
2nd and 10 from the 16. Ronnie Johnson resets on the left side. They give the ball to Thurman Thomas. He gets it to the 14-yard line. It'll be 3rd down at about 8 with 1:25 and ticking in the 3rd. Dan Henning, coach. He was the head coach at Atlanta in the 80s, then went to San Diego, now the offensive coordinator here.
An unusual combination in Buffalo. Both of their coordinators, former head coaches in this league. Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator, of course, the head coach in Denver.
Now 3rd and 8. Collins gets it away in a hurry, and it's caught at the 6-yard line by Quinn Early, and very close to a first down.
I can't tell you what a great catch that was. Early, out of the break, that ball was steaming right at him.
And it is a first down.
But it's
Great
where
catch.
you want it as a receiver if you're going across the middle.
Well,
don't put it up high and
me,
hang me out.
Dan, this is a great catch. But he just had a chance to look back in, and just out of the corner of his eye, he caught that ball, and it was smoking.
But you want it low, don't you, Frank?
Oh, yeah.
You certainly don't want it upstairs.
Waning seconds of the period. 1st and goal from just inside the 6-yard line. Antoine Smith
a yard, a hard yard. Pushed back by Hollier as the clock will tick down and they'll change ends of the field. And that will be the end of the third quarter. Miami 16, Buffalo 10, and Monday Night Football resumes after this from our ABC. And we start the fourth quarter. Pro Player Stadium in Miami, the Bud 1 Airship, providing the scenics tonight on a warm, balmy South Florida evening. Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Deerdorf, Lynn Swan. Another good one on Monday night. It's been a great schedule this year. And we go to the fourth quarter with Miami up by 6, but Buffalo threatening. Second down and goal from just inside the 5-yard line. Collins under center, gives the ball to Thurman Thomas, who takes the ball to the 2-yard line. Third and goal. Aaron Tanner made the initial hit, rookie at Oklahoma.
Good effort by Thurman Thomas just to get yardage out of that. He was hit behind the line of scrimmage. Deceivingly strong. Thurman Thomas has shocked tacklers for 10 years now with his strength, quickness.
You watched Alex Van Pelt relay the call in. Third down and goal. Collins rolling to buy time, has to come back the other way and has to eat the football at the 7-yard line. Anthony Harris with the sack, and great coverage by the Dolphins.
Good coverage. Collins had no chance when he tried to come back into the pursuit.
Except he's got a guy wide open in the end zone and doesn't get him the football. He's got a receiver in the end zone that is waving at him, and somehow Collins doesn't see him.
Now Steve Christie, a 25-yard attempt. Chris Moore to hold.
It's away.
And they get 3 after the Miami fumble. So early in the fourth, it's now 16-13 Miami.
Right there, here's Andre Reed. Watch him work back to the outside after Teague falls down. There, Teague falls down. Andre Reed is all alone in the Dolphin end zone. Todd Collins is unable to find him. Quinn Early was back in the corner. I guess he's locked in on Early and just not able to find Andre Reed all by himself.
Christie's kickoff taken by Irving Spikes from the 7. Good run back, and Irving all the way to the 38-yard line.
Buffalo's kickoff return team defensively hurting again.
3 kicks have been returned this season for touchdowns against the Bills. As Miami leads it by 3. Again, if Miami wins, they'd be 7-4, as are the Jets, but Miami would have the advantage, having defeated New York twice. Buffalo with a win would go to 6-5 and be just a game back. From the 38, first down Miami. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar to the 40, second down and 8. Tackled by Sam Rogers.
Miami being persistent with the run game. Crowd not necessarily liking it, but it's what Jimmy Johnson set out to do, and he's going to stick with it. Even when you're not making a lot of yardage with it, Jabbar gets a couple there. You are making the defense play you honestly. They can't just turn it all loose, hang it out, and go for your quarterback.
Second and 8. Swing caught by Jabbar, Abdul-Jabbar, and he's out of bounds. Henry Jones knocks him out, but not until he reaches the 48-yard line, and that is very close to a first down.
Jabbar had his eyes right on those sticks, and he's got a burst. He's coming very close. They're going to bring it in from across the field. That's where they keep track of it officially.
That close. First down.
Close enough.
So from the 48 now, first down Miami. Dolphins next week go to New England.
against the reeling Patriots at Foxborough. Buffalo heads to Tennessee, to Memphis, to face the Oilers. Abdul-Jabbar on first down, and Phil Hansen with another fine play. Again, for so many years, a flag goes down here. Talked about it the last time we had Buffalo, and this one is against the Miami Dolphins because of all of the acclaim that Bruce Smith gets. You forget about this guy, but he's had a heck of a career.
A guy who came into the league actually really undersized, barely able to maintain 250
Illegal
pounds.
use of hands.
Hansen again, what
Illegal
Bruce Smith
use
did
of
earlier,
hands.
just an excellent
Number
job of
60 on the
separating
offense.
himself
Hands to the face. Penalty is declined.
from his blocker, worked upfield and made the hit. The penalty against John Bach is declined by Buffalo because of that excellent play by Hansen. But some defensive linemen are like they have Velcro on their chest. You go out to block them and they just seem to stick to you. The good players slide off of you and they slide off upfield. That's what Bruce Smith and Hansen have done this game.
2nd and 11, and they give it to Bernie Parmalee. And the first time he carries tonight, there's a marker down. It's to the 39-yard line, and all the Bills are signaling it's against Miami. So is Phillips.
Well, this one will be accepted.
Holding. Number 77 on the offense. 10-yard penalty. Still 2nd down.
Jeff Bucky, the left guard. So the two guards of the Dolphins are taking turns collecting penalties. Let's take a look at it here. There he is, number 77. Oh, that's a full-blown tackle. Nothing subtle about that.
Jeff got a takedown.
Boy, you hate to see the holding calls on the running game. That drives coaches crazy. The advantage is supposed to be with the offensive lineman in the run game.
It negates a 14-yard gain, and on 2nd and 21, they get part of it back on a catch by Brett Perriman.
You can almost hear Marino say, look, Jimmy, how easy it is.
Perriman's first catch of the night. Brett, longtime Saint and Lion, went to Kansas City this year, but it just didn't work out with the Chiefs. And Brett played for Jimmy Johnson at the University of Miami, but Jimmy didn't recruit him. Brett was already there as a freshman when Jimmy took over.
Big years in New Orleans and Detroit. Well over 500 receptions for Brett Perriman.
3rd down and 8. Marino slings it, and it is caught by Perriman.
Oh, what a spot.
Whoa, great spot for
They gave
Miami.
him the mark based on that he might have been driven out of bounds.
And Perriman's
That's what
hurt.
they're saying. Perriman's hurt, but that was the ruling, that he would have come down with his feet in bounds had he not been hit.
Well, and Marv Levy is arguing, he knows what forward progress is. He's just arguing the point of the forward progress wasn't that far. Let's see. There's the catch. Aaron Pointer, the head linesman, goes up and makes the spot. A spot that makes everyone from Miami happy and everyone from Buffalo sad.
And when it happens right in front of Marv Levy, he's very unhappy. There's a lot of fire under that snow on the roof.
Perriman all right, and he'll resume. The Miami Dolphins have a first down at the Buffalo 41. Miami is up by 3 with 11:15 remaining in regulation. 1st and 10. Back to the ground. Abdul-Jabbar squirts through the hole, takes it to the 28 off a Roosevelt Potts block. Potts said Jimmy Johnson brought me in to be a battering ram, and that's exactly what he was, to spring his mate for a first down.
Well, he put a hitting on there, and the great burst by Jabbar did the rest of it. Potts goes about 260 pounds, a little overweight. Puts a good block in front of Jabbar, and Jabbar does the rest.
And the one thing you like about Jabbar is only a 200-pound back, how much he loves to run between the tackles. His first instinct is not to try to get on the edge and bounce it outside. His first instinct is to turn back against the grain and work upfield for tough yardage.
He's upped his average tonight considerably. Came in tonight averaging 3.3. The Dolphins, that was their team average of 3.3, and he's helped that considerably tonight.
Not a big back, but he runs big.
He's a 200-pound back with a good burst.
You know, in the old days, a 200-pound back was a big guy. Not by today's standards.
10 minutes to play. Second down and 9 from the 28-yard line. Marino under pressure, and one future Hall of Famer sacks another. Bruce with his second and 153 of his illustrious career.
Second tonight, 13th of the year.
And he separates Dan from the blocker. I mean, he has his own burst. I mean, he is so quick to be so large.
We always talk about cornerbacks and receivers with a burst. Richmond Webb locked up on Bruce, but then Bruce loops to the inside. Webb can't follow him. That's not Webb's fault. He can't chase him around the pile. That is just a beautifully timed, delayed stunt back to the inside by Bruce Smith. And unusual in the sense that Dan Marino held onto the ball that long when he saw Smith coming.
And he's running out of time on the play clock.
Third down, 18, and they have to take a timeout. Smith now with 13 sacks, and that ties him with Dana Stubblefield of the 49ers for the league lead. Good one in Miami. Dolphins by 3. 9:27 left. For you, 14 head coaches have been hired by teams whose previous head coach had led that team to a Super Bowl win. Jimmy Johnson is the only one of those guys who has twice been hired, succeeding two legends. Tom Landry in '89 at Dallas. Don Shula right here in '96. Third down and 18 now from the 36-yard line for the Dolphins. And we've got whistles before the snap.
Ball start. Number 78 on the offense. Moving prior to the ball being snapped. That's a 5-yard penalty. Still third down.
Richmond Webb, and that's 3 penalties against 3 different offensive linemen on this series.
We talked earlier about the way they had to put this line together, and that's what you get, right, Dan?
Yeah, it really is. Although Webb is, you know, you count on your best players to not be the guys that make casual mistakes. You see him rocking back. He dropped his tail a little bit, and that is simulating a snap. Technically, it's a minor violation, but it's a violation nonetheless.
And on 3rd and 23, they have to get to the 19 to convert, and it is picked off by Marlon Kerner.
Boy, talk about staying with it.
If Dan Marino did not have the bad ankle, he would have, no question, I don't think, that he would have run that football. He just could not run the football. He tried to slip it in there. He's got great confidence in his arm, and he made a mistake. The field was open in front of him, and he just didn't want to risk running on the ankle.
Kerner with his second pick of the year. Buffalo has the ball back, trailing by 3.
Obviously, Dan Marino is very upset, and after this play, we're going to show you what you wonder what he was thinking, because he threw to a receiver that was never open.
After the Kerner pick, first down Buffalo from the 30-yard line. Collins protected well, floats one, but incomplete. Quinn Early was open.
Oh, was he open?
Wide open.
Sean Wooden had fallen, and Early was there for big yardage, maybe all the way. Watch again. Got Sean Wooden locked up on him. He picks him up as he comes across. Wooden goes down. Early's wide open, and not even close by Collins.
Trying to figure what Wooden tripped over. He fell down like he hurt himself, yet he appears to be all right.
Second and 10 from the 30. On the ground, Antoine Smith. Gain of 1. Third down and 9. Tackled by Gardner, and go back to the Marino interception.
Yeah, he's trying to get the ball to Lamar Thomas. But look, I don't know what Dan can see, because Marlon Kerner is in front of Thomas all the way. At no time could Dan have looked at Lamar Thomas and thought that he was open enough to get him the football. It's almost like he threw it there even though he didn't want to. It's like his arm had a mind of its own.
Awkward throw, to say the least. Bad ankle, bad decision by Dan Marino.
3rd down 9, 8.5 to go. And Collins slips and goes down to the 22-yard line. Trace Armstrong will get a gift sack.
Remember, early in the game, he talked about the footing, and it might have an impact later in the game.
Well, not a very good series for Todd Collins. Overthrowing badly a wide open receiver, and then on a critical 3rd down, dropping back and falling down.
Chris Moore to punt.
It's gone.
45-yard kick taken at the 32-yard line by Charles Jordan, and a 7-yard run back to the 39-yard line. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Ford and Your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? Prudential, bringing strength and stability to America's families through insurance, healthcare, real estate, and financial services. Pennzoil, formulated for today's stop-and-go driving. Stop, go, Pennzoil. And Taco Bell. Want some? Meanwhile, have a moment. Here's some Budweiser NFL news. Glenn Foley sprained medial collateral ligament. That means Neil O'Donnell starts for the Jets Sunday against Minnesota. Bam Morris, who's been in trouble with the law before, charged with assaulting a woman last night in Baltimore. Tim McDonald, the great strong safety of the Niners, is out for a couple of weeks with a fractured foot.
And that will hurt them. He's having a great year. Another one.
First down from the 39-yard line, and it's a 2-yard gain for Abdul-Jabbar.
And this is where Jimmy Johnson would love to be able to run the football and run it effectively to take the seconds off the clock. And this is where they have been lacking. This is his game, and he's going to get to it at some point, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after that. Because I think he is completely believes that that's the only way you can take it all the way in this game today.
Yeah,
be able to run the football.
This is a defensive front that's not easily pushed around. We'll find out if Jimmy's will equals their talent.
2nd and 7. Perry throws the block, provides the leverage for Abdul-Jabbar to the 46. It's going to be 3rd and 3. Hawasek on the tackle.
I have no doubt that the Miami Dolphins, who have nearly $7 million in this year's salary cap tied up in players that aren't here, that all evaporates at the end of the 1997 season. You will see a very active Jimmy Johnson in the free agent game next year, and his offensive line will get an awful lot of his attention.
3rd down and a short 4. Marino with the play clock ticking down to 5. He's already burned 1 timeout, and they get it off. And the pass is caught by Perriman.
Great read by Marino. I'm sure that was a run play that had been called in. He read the defense, changed it up, and Brett Perriman, who just got here a couple of weeks ago, was right in sync with him.
And it was a nice move by Perriman, who sells a move to the inside. Watch him sell the slant right there.
That's beautiful.
Gets Kerner to bite all over the slant, and by the time he reacts back to the outside, that's a big-time move by a veteran wide receiver in Brett Perriman.
And all done with the change at the line of scrimmage. Great syncing up between the two.
That's how you get over 500 receptions in the NFL.
26-yard gain, 1st and 10 from the 29, and Abdul-Jabbar goes down, slips, and gets crunched by Bruce Smith.
You know, Frank, so many times you see receivers that give a little move with the shoulders. They don't really sell the move. That was a sell to the inside by Brett Perriman that involved every part of his body.
What the good ones do, and there is a little pump fake. Here's Bruce Smith penetrating here. This was a play a moment ago. But again, the turf is really giving away on him. Jabbar trying to make a cut. He went down there.
2nd down and 11. Parmalee late in getting in. Gets the call from Marino. And on 2nd and 11, Marino slings it to the wide open Drayton. Touchdown, Miami.
Ooh. We don't have to mention the word mistake.
Well, Dan Marino didn't miss the open guy.
What in the world?
Well, it's quite simple. 2 Buffalo defenders locked up on the back out of the backfield. Needless to say, one of them had Troy Drayton. Bernie Parmalee comes out of the backfield. Both Bryce Pop and Henry Jones lock up on him, and nobody goes with Troy Drayton.
You would hate to point the finger from up here because no way of telling, but earlier Bryce Pop was given that assignment. We talked about how difficult it was for him in that kind of a coverage.
Yep, and that play concludes with Pop and Jones looking at each other, trying to figure out who goofed.
I've got to know.
I've got to know.
Extra point by Mate is good. Both Marino touchdown passes tonight to the tight ends. One to Perry, this one to Drayton. The Dolphins up by 10.
Boy, that was a killer. Buffalo has fought and scratched the entire football game, and that one hurts.
Boy, you hate to expend so much effort. You work so hard. You kill yourself out on this field for this much of a football game, and you have it come down to a mental mistake that ends up being a backbreaker.
The Bud One airship high above Pro Player Stadium in Miami, rocking right now. Their team culminates that drive on the Drayton touchdown after Marino hit Perriman for the key play. ESPN's Sunday night game comes from Jack Kent Cooke Stadium in Washington. The Giants on top in the NFC East against Washington, and we go to Denver next Monday night. The Raiders with Napoleon Kaufman and Jeff George against the Denver Broncos. John Elway, Terrell Davis and company. Raiders Broncos next Monday night.
Danny Canals Giants now, and they're running away with it.
And I think I'm going to go visit that Bud One airship in about 10 minutes.
Mate's kick is dropped by Holmes for the touchback. The bookends, Hansen and Smith.
Let's go ahead and take a look again at that touchdown to Troy Drayton. We'll take a look at it from the end zone camera, from the sideline camera. Here's Drayton right here. Watch him come out, and there they are, locked up, both guys.
I don't want to point a finger, but if you're going to cover a tight end, you're going to cut him with a linebacker, aren't you, Dan? And I think that would be Bryce Pop.
Although at times, it's, you know, I guess you could change up the strong safety. He's another likely candidate. It's just a shame that they make a blow like that at that critical of a juncture of the game.
And now Collins on first down throws. It's a 4-yard gain. It's caught there by Quinn Early. Busy night for Quinn. 6 catches for him, but for not much yardage, just 51 yards. And Collins tonight, he's thrown 28 times for 139 yards. When you do that, you're averaging 4.5 yards per pass. It ain't going to cut it. Second down and 6, and that's caught up at the 30-yard line. Not caught now.
Bounce.
Third down.
It one-hopped on its way to Eric Moulds. Again, a relatively open receiver, and Collins can't deliver him the football cleanly. This must be very frustrating, obviously, for Todd Collins, but for Marv Levy as well.
3rd and 6. Going for it all. Well overthrown. Andre Reed with a little move as if to indicate he was interfered with, but the officials know better. Double coverage on the play, and it's 4th down. And Marv, in effect, saying you've got to go for it.
I was just thinking of number 12.
Yep.
Jim Kelly looking on. He has been the quarterback up until this year. Every year the Marv Levy has been here. And again, we got double coverage, and Todd Collins just threw that away from the get-go.
Well, they have no choice but to go for it.
4th down and 6. Desperately needing to convert here. They don't. Thurman Thomas covered by Sean Wooden. Laid the wood to him. They may have laid the wood to Buffalo season.
Was that ball behind Thurman? Looked like Thurman was in a position maybe where he could have. Something was awkward about the conclusion of that catch. Attempted catch. Thurman's going to come right into the picture. There he is. Oh, the ball's back behind him. That's a ball that has to be out in front of Thurman Thomas. It was thrown back behind him. Thurman not able to pull it in.
Todd Collins not having a good night.
Unfortunately for Buffalo, you're right, Frank.
First down from the 24. 4:19 to go. Chew up the clock, give it to Abdul-Jabbar, picks up about 3. Buffalo has all of its timeouts remaining. And they take one here.
Yeah, you can't ask your running back to spin and do a 180 to try to catch a pass.
You're lucky if he can get back to the huddle after something like this. He takes a shot right there on the shoulder.
Timeout called by Buffalo. There's tomorrow night's lineup with a couple of home improvements. Soul Man Spin City and NYPD Blue right here on ABC. Well, the Buffalo Bills through this decade, they have been the team that just won't die. 4 times to the Super Bowl, 2 other times to the playoffs. But they are in pretty critical condition at the end of 11 games with a record of 5-6. Second down and 7 from the 21-yard line. Abdul-Jabbar swings to the outside, picks up the first down, and is wrestled out of bounds by Thomas Smith.
You mentioned earlier, Al, Buffalo, Miami only has 16 players remaining from the end of the '95 season when Jimmy Johnson came in for the first year. Buffalo has 35 players over that same period of time. It's kind of an interesting contrast.
Well, there's a lot of the reason they won't die is that it starts with Marv Levy. Tremendous character on the part of the leadership of the Buffalo Bills. And when I'm talking about the leadership, I'm talking about the Thurman Thomas, the Andre Reed, the Bruce Smith, that type of football player that is performing there at a high level for a long time.
Abdul-Jabbar inside the 5, down at the 1.
Oh, he runs bigger than a 200-pound running back.
Yep. He also is tied for the league lead in touchdowns and may get another here, or at least the opportunity. He has 10 touchdowns. No Miami running back has ever led the league in touchdowns over the course of a full season, and he's tied for the league lead in TDs right now with Oakland's James Jett, the wide receiver.
Keep in mind, just 2 weeks ago, 15 days ago, these two teams played, and Miami's offense was completely dominated by Buffalo's defense. Challenged by Jimmy Johnson. I think it's safe to say they have responded.
Second and goal, and there is his 11th touchdown of the year.
Well, he's had a night. This is a tough defense that Dan was talking about, and he has consistently picked up the key yardage, the big yardage all night.
Well, you win at your place, I'll win at my place.
I can credit this offensive line with doing some job, too. Totally reconstructed.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar could be the first man in history to lead the NFL and the NBA in scoring. But that's another story. Murray for the point after.
You may get subpoenaed.
What else is new? 30-13 Miami. Pro Player Stadium in Miami. Starting to empty out, but it's a happy crowd. It's a very happy crowd.
That's right. A contented fish is a happy fish.
Yes.
And all fish fans are happy tonight.
What a talented crew.
Oh, boy.
We might even see a buffalo come across there.
Or a bronco. You never know. Mate kicks off. Down by Moles in the end zone.
3 touchbacks tonight for Amari.
Local kid. Went to Syracuse. Olindo Mate.
Well, this puts Miami, for all intents and purposes, in first place in the AFC East. They'll have a 7-4 record along with the Jets, but that actually puts them a game ahead of the Jets because they have beaten them in both meetings this season. So the Jets would have to finish a full game ahead of Miami to dislodge them from the leadership position in the AFC East.
And New England's a game back as Derek Holmes takes the pass and steps out of bounds a little short of the first. The one good thing for, in a way, for New England is at least they get to play Miami twice next week at Foxborough. And then the final Monday night game of the season on December 22nd is right here when the Dolphins host the Pats.
But when you look at the playoff picture now, it appears that the AFC East is only going to deliver its champion into the playoff picture because of Pittsburgh and Jacksonville in the Central and Denver and Kansas City in the West. The AFC East may only put one team into the playoffs, and you've got the Jets and Miami and New England, Buffalo, all vying for that one spot.
Another poignant looks. I saw Phil Hansen there, and a moment ago is Bruce Smith.
There's your comparison tonight. Dan Marino, the better night, clearly, 2 touchdowns. And Todd Collins averaging around 4 yards per attempt as Derek Holmes makes the catch up to the 35. And Dan the Man will get another career victory, second only to John Elway, as Marv Levy says, come on, guys, urgency.
I think it's, we need to keep in mind that this is Collins' 3rd year in the league, his 1st year as the guy. There's certainly a lot of growth yet to come for Todd Collins.
Yeah, and he's coming back from having been benched, and he's had a tough night.
If Marv thinks that this is the guy, as Alex Van Pelt looks on, if he thinks that he is the guy that's going to be the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills next year, he ought to just let him go the rest of the season.
From the 43, that's unabated access to the quarterback for Jason Taylor. Thus the flag.
Interesting, Taylor playing with this kind of a lead. They were playing him sparingly because of the fractured arm we talked about earlier with the screws in it and the plate. That happened October the 17th.
This game has made such great progress over the years. Unabated.
To the quarterback on the defense.
Let's be serious, Frank. A word that never would have appeared back in the 60s or the 70s.
Can you imagine telling Dobler he was unabated?
Yeah. Conrad, be careful. He is unabated on his way to the quarterback.
Abate this.
Collins, and that is dropped by Quinn Early. Miami leading by a score of 30-13. We come to the 2-minute warning. Don't say we didn't warn you. And you can cast your ballot for the Pro Bowl by tapping into America Online, and the keyword is ABC Sports to cast your ballot for the game which we'll have on ABC on the 1st of February. Okay.
Normally a passive creature. The Dolphins have been aggressive this evening.
Was that a Bronco that he was in?
An opportunity.
Was it?
Wayne Huizenga amused by both the performance of his team and our camera crew.
2nd and 5 at the 48. Collins, a little flip, and that's deflected, and it's caught by Moles, but he goes nowhere. And Mr. Calvin Jackson wraps him up.
Calvin Jackson unabated on his way to Eric Moulds.
Now, Bruce Smith has had a lot of unabated access to quarterbacks in his time, but the look of frustration right there, a guy whose career winds down in a situation along with guys like Bryce Pop on that defensive unit with a lot of frustration, a mark of 5 and 6 after 11 games. 3rd and long, and Collins is stepping out of bounds. .121 remaining.
You look at Bruce Smith, you think he's having such a great year again this year, and he never led the league in sacks. He's what, 153 career sacks now. Has he ever led his own conference? I guess he's led his conference.
Tied for the lead.
Tied for the lead.
What is it? Johnny Unitas never led the league in passing.
Right.
That's you know, there are a lot of Brett Perriman has what, over 500 receptions. He's never been to a Pro Bowl.
Tony Dorsett never led the league in rushing. 4th down and 10. And Collins' final pass of the night is an errant one, and well, that's sort of symbolic of Todd's night.
Could have been the final pass of the season. He was off balance, and well, Burton just let up on him. Ooh, that came close.
Shane Burton. And now the Dolphins to run out the clock with 1:15 to go.
Statement by the Dolphins, I would say, here tonight.
Well, they certainly respond to the challenge that Jimmy Johnson put to them.
And responding to the challenge, as always, Ken Wolf, our illustrious producer. Tonight's game directed by Craig Janoff, our technical director, Joe Chavo. Ben Harvey, our associate producer. Jaime Bravo is our AD, as they say in the business. Bob Simon, Claude Phipps, Hal Schmitz, Chris Pfeiffer, and Bill Bolin. And get well to our man Steve Hurt, who's on the inactive list just for a week or two.
Yeah, he's better already.
Yep. To Tommy Hurt and Alex Stern, our thanks tonight. Our statistician is George Hill. Running the booth is Kim Bauer. And our spotter, Malibu, Kelly Hayes, known simply as Kelly Hayes on college football with Keith Jackson. But here, Malibu Kelly Hayes.
What's he known in Aspen?
Moves around.
Aspen Kelly Hayes.
Smith and the Bills with the long ride back to Buffalo and then a trip to Tennessee next week. Miami, meanwhile, now in first place in the division. And Jimmy Johnson's crew getting ready to head to Foxborough next week, as the Dolphins win it by a score of 30-13, and that's 130 career victories now as a starter for Dan Marino, second only to John Elway. We'll wrap it up from South Florida in a moment.
You don't need binoculars.
Number 33, and he leads the NFL in touchdowns, his 11th. Congratulations to you, Kareem.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Now, when Jimmy Johnson says that he wants to run the football, he's going to make sure he runs the football, what goes through your mind?
I get excited because I know that we don't get the chance, you know. Sometimes, you know, we get stopped, and it's tough, especially with Buffalo. They have a great defensive line, and it was tough sometimes, but we kept at it. And I just think the whole team played great. You know, we played great special teams and defense and offense today for the first time, I think.
You know, Al, Frank, and Dan were talking about your ability to run the football, and they're talking about you never look for the perimeter, you look for the inside. You're a small running back, yet you find the tough yards inside. Why do you run that way?
It's just been my mentality. You know, I'm a defense type of player, you know, on offense. I guess I'm just used to it. That's how I've been playing all my life. I've been watching film, though, and I've been seeing the perimeters, a few more big plays, and so I may start taking it.
Well, I'm sure with Jimmy Johnson coach's team, you're going to get that chance down the road. Kareem, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Al?
All right, thank you, Lynn. So Miami wins it 30-13. We go on to Denver next week. The Broncos host the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Until then, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford.